You want to say the prayer? Or you want to let Ryan say the prayer?
Huh?
You want to say the prayer? Or you want to let Ryan say the prayer?
Ryan said it.
Ryan, will you say the prayer? Awesome. You ladies ready? I like that. Where's our agenda? Call this meeting to order. The Effingham County Planning Board meeting of February 13th. Now in session. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. We're going to begin this meeting with a word of prayer. We're going to follow the prayer with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'd like to ask that everyone who can, please stand with us for both. I'm going to ask Mr. Ryan Thompson if he would lead us in prayer.
Sure. Dear Heavenly Father, please give this board wisdom in the discussions that we will have tonight, wisdom for the future plans and future growth of our county. And please also help us all to remember what a wonderful country we live in, what a wonderful state we live in, and what a wonderful county we live in. And also be with those that protect us on a daily basis, both here domestically and abroad. And dear Lord, please especially be with the families of the 3 service members we lost just this past month. Yes. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Where's our agenda? So, our agenda, is there anything we need to add or delete from this agenda?
Yes. Item 2 will be postponed till April meeting. Item 10, J. Moppin is withdrawn. And item 13 will be postponed, business licensing.
All right. Everyone have the noted changes?
Yes.
All right, I call for a motion to approve this agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. How about minutes? Any corrections or additions to the
Sir?
minutes, ma'am?
Chairman,
Ma'am.
item 12 is also going to be postponed, sketch plans. So.
Say that again.
Item 12, sketch plan, is going to be postponed as well.
All right. So we need another motion?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I get a new motion?
Motion to approve the amended agenda with item number 12 being postponed.
All right. Motion to approve, is there a second? Second. Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. So, minutes. Any corrections or additions? If there are none, I'll call for a motion to approve these minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Motion to approve the minutes is written. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. All right, we got just a quick little bit of work up here. Do I hear any volunteers to take over, Chairman? I want everybody to speak at once.
No.
Then I need a motion for an appointment or a recommendation and a,
Make a motion to approve Dave Burns to remain as chairman for 2024.
motion to approve Dave Burns. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, all those opposed? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Election of vice chair. Do I hear a replacement for Peter? Everybody go
I'll
with
make
Pete?
a motion that we put Peter in that role.
Peter stays. I have a motion for Peter to stay as vice chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. All right, so old business. We have just one item under old business, and that is ordinance revision. Consideration of an amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Part 2, Official Code, Appendix C, Article 5, Table of Permitted Uses. Mr. Steve.
So, Mr. Chair, as we talked about in the workshop, we originally passed the table of permitted uses a couple meetings ago. There were some things that were either left out or were incorrectly marked onto the chart, and we're going to just go through these and amend these tonight, if that's okay.
Quickly.
So the first one is a ready-mix concrete plant is currently a permitted use in I-1. We want to make it I-2 and not an I-1. We want to add an R2 residential 2 column in residential.
Steve, can you hold on 1 second?
Okay.
What about if there is a site that has a temporary ready-mix plant in an industrial, in an I-1 use?
Currently?
Moving
No, in
forward?
the
With this
future.
change.
Moving forward.
If we make this motion and it's a I-1, like a warehouse, and we want to put a warehouse, a ready-mix concrete plant up temporarily to supply the concrete for the project.
Then you would want to adjust the table of permitted uses to allow a temporary concrete plant as a temporary conditional use in an I-1.
Okay.
So if you want to do that during the motion.
All right.
Okay. And then R2s to include attached townhomes and duplexes. We talked about having a conditional use for a tiny home subdivision in the R4 zoning district. Remove rural district from a PD zoning district. It just doesn't belong. That was a mistake. Add a rural business as a conditional use in an AR1 and AR2 zoning districts. Delete from the retail category, plant gardens and outdoor nurseries. That was a duplicate that was a part of the table. We want to amend by deleting all commercial agricultural from AR2. It's not big enough for that, so we're going to delete that. And then also we want to add the land use airfields as a conditional use in an AR1. We want to add food processing to a B3 zoning district as a conditional use. We want to add the use of golf courses as a conditional use in all of the zoning districts that are residential. That would be R1, R2, R3, R4, R5, and PDR.
And PDR?
And PDR.
Okay.
And would we leave the AR1?
We can leave the AR1, absolutely. If they're just not big enough for an AR2.
Any additional?
No, sir, that's it. Except for the condition that you want to put it temporary in AR1, or I1.
Any discussion? Nothing. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this change? Call.
Make sure, on the ready-mix plant being allowed if it's for on-site use only. If there's, as long as that is clear, that's the only thing I want, and I appreciate y'all bringing it up.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? All right, if there's no discussion, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommended changes, and I'll add that additional condition for the first condition, the ready-mix concrete facilities changing from I-1 to I-2 with the addition of a temporary concrete plant being a conditional use allowed within within I-1 for on-site use only.
And temporary is the length of time of,
That's a fine question.
I think for
During the
duration
construction,
of the
that's,
project.
yeah, during the construction of the industrial use, right?
Okay.
Will they receive their CO?
Final CO, that's right.
Well, but I mean, it could be multiple buildings they're building as part of that. So if it's a,
Okay.
I don't know how to put that in the motion, but hopefully that'll come clear that while they're building,
So,
The master site plan.
during extent of construction.
so it's just for use on the property that is
correct.
located.
But it wouldn't necessarily have to come down when one building's finished and have to put another one right back up.
Okay.
It's for while that development is being constructed.
Yep. We just want to make sure they can't move it off-site.
Correct. Or send concrete off-site.
Right.
Yep.
Motion for approval of one addition. Is there any discussion of the motion?
No.
Call for a second.
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Zipper. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. All right, thank you. Under new business, when's our next county commissioners meeting?
March 5th.
So under new business, all items presented tonight, this meeting will be presented at our Board of Commissioners meeting. That meeting is also a public hearing. That meeting is March the 5th, 6:00 PM. It's also in this room. This board is a recommendation to the county commissioners. So their meeting, they'll have two more public hearings after this, for each reading. Items that are approved, as well as items which are denied, will move forward to the county commissioners. Like to ask that everyone who wishes to speak, whenever the item of your concern is called, that you would come forward to the podium, that you would state your name for the record, as well as sign your name for the record. We know everybody has a lot to say. We would ask that everyone try to keep their comments to around 2 minutes. I mean, we don't have a buzzer or anything like that. So, moving forward on to items, is there anything further I missed? Moving on to item number 1, it's a public hearing for Theodore Corellis as agent for Effingham County Industrial Development Authority request to rezone plus or minus 3.97 acres from AR1 to I1 to allow for integration into an industrial park located on Interstate 16. This is the first district. Ms. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So the applicant is proposing to rezone the parcels to industrial to integrate into that existing industrial park that currently borders it. The parcels are vacant and not developed. Industrial zoning would be consistent with the future land use map for this area. As you can see, the parcels, and let me see if I can get my mouse here. The parcels in question here are these triangle parcels. The future land use map, that is a policy document currently, does show the purple parcels here. That is industrial use. Staff is recommending alternative number 1.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Dave, before
Sure.
we move forward, I just realized I don't need to be on this one either.
Okay.
So,
I need a motion to recuse Mr. Thompson from this item.
Make a motion to recuse Mr. Thompson.
There a second?
I'll second it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried by all.
David, where are you seeing that on your pad?
All right, Mr. Yes, sir, Mr. Corellis.
Yes.
You tell us a little bit about your plan?
Yes, sir. All these, there are 5 lots in question. And just for the record, it's map and parcel 331-5A, 331-4, 331-3, 331-13A, and 331-14A. All 5 of these parcels border either Interstate 16 or the existing industrial park that Effingham County already has, Savannah Portside International Park there at Old River Road and I-16. These are just integrating them into the park because they came, I believe they're AR1, so it doesn't make sense in the middle of an industrial park.
All right.
Questions?
Questions, comments at this time? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? If there's no discussion, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Higgins. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Need a motion to reinstate Mr. Thompson.
Make a motion to reinstate Ryan Thompson.
Second, Mr. Zipper. All those in favor? Good ball. Where'd he go? There he is. Item 2 is postponed. Item 3, public hearing for Robert McCorkle III as agent for the Coopers. Request to rezone plus or minus 40 of 280.5 acres from AR1 to I1 to allow for warehousing and logistics located on Old River Road. It's the first district. Ms. Chelsea?
Yes, sir. So per the Effingham County Code of Ordinance Table of Permitted Uses, warehouse facilities are permitted within both light and heavy industrial. The required buffers between industrial zone parcels and residentially zoned parcels are 300 feet. I have provided on your staff report the berm section of the buffer ordinance in case this is something that you do wish to consider for this project. The future land use map for this parcel does project it as transitional. That is that light blue color that you see there. Staff is recommending alternative number 1.
Thank you, Madam. Is there any questions or comments at this time? Yes. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on behalf of this project? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robert McCorkle here on behalf of the property owners, the Coopers. Sorry, give me a second. The Cooper family, part of their family has owned this property, which in total consists of about 280 acres since 1959. Their uncle, Larry Barnes, lived on and worked this land since that time until he died in 2018, and then he left it to his nieces and nephews, who were like grandchildren to him, as members of the Cooper family. When he left it to him, he suggested that they try to keep it farmland as long as possible unless circumstances changed around them. And that's pretty much why we're here today, is because the circumstances have changed around them. Their neighbor directly to the north has been rezoned to industrial. Portions of property across the street on Old River Road have been rezoned to industrial. Behind the residential across the street from them on Old River Road is the Savannah Portside Industrial Park, 160 acres for industrial. And given its location less than 3/4 of a mile from from I-16, its location of the port, it makes sense for this property to be rezoned for an industrial use. We believe generally the character of the area, that as it has changed, that the highest and best use for their property is for industrial use. I think it's highly unlikely, given the development around them on all sides, that a brand new residential neighborhood would be developed, for instance, on this piece of property. And so what we've come to the county is to ask to rezone 40 acres of the portion of the property, which is a 40-acre portion, which is not good land particularly for agriculture. It's cleared and level and will be frankly easier to develop than the other piece, although I will say that it is likely that in the future years, particularly when agricultural lease is not in place anymore, that they will come back for the remainder of the 280 acres to rezone it to industrial in the future. But today we're talking about a 40-acre portion of that piece of property, which is shown on the plats that were provided to you. We don't believe that the permitted uses are going to create additional hazards or adversely affect the surrounding properties, because the uses that would be permitted on the property are already there. They're already permitted on the adjacent properties in multiple directions around us. And with that, we support staff's recommendation for approval and would ask for y'all's support of staff's recommendation for approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. McCorkle. Questions at this time?
I know we're just talking about the use and the zoning change right now, but just to clarify from a standpoint, and I probably should ask this earlier to staff, the buffer that would be required per the, assuming it did get zoning change, the buffer on Old River Road would be what?
So that is R1, that is across Old River Road from them. So that is, let me just make sure I'm giving you the correct information.
Is it 300?
Because warehousing it would be 300 feet. Whether it was light or heavy industrial, it is still 300 feet.
No,
So,
that's-
Mr. McCorkle, I mean, we have some options now for as buffers and with berms.
Yep.
Are you aware of what your plan will be for the buffer? Whether you'll stay with the 300 feet or you're gonna reduce it with the option of a berm? Because I see part of the property is in a field, where the berm would work really well.
Yeah, I don't know that we know. I mean, frankly, the Coopers will not be specifically the people developing this property. Ultimately, I'm sure it's going to get sold to someone else who will come in and develop it, and at that time we'll have a specific site plan. I project that given the size of this site, 300 feet both on the front and the back will eat up a fair amount of it, and so it would probably be smart for them to do it by berm, and I do agree that a berm would make sense. I think we'd like to have whatever options are available to them so that when they come back for that site plan time, they can go through those options. But I would not be surprised if they ultimately chose to do a berm.
All right. Anything else at this time? All right, thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Yes, sir. You can come forward, please. Can you hold 1 second till you get to the microphone?
I myself live on Old River Road. Been there 37 years. I can't even get out of my neighborhood because of vehicles coming up down the road, mainly because of the 18-wheelers and dump trucks. This particular thing is gonna bring in more 18-wheelers, or we plan on 4-lane on Old River Road. Our roads are turning to potholes every day. I got a couple of classical cars, they hitting these potholes every day, and we don't need no more damage to the roads. And that's all I got to say.
Can I get your name, sir?
Adrian Hoover.
Thank you, Mr. Hoover.
And again, we're asking, are they going to upgrade the roads to accommodate all this, even this here that we're talking about today?
All right, thank you, sir.
My name is Mike Love. I live at 116 Bay Road, which, according to your parcel, is right directly across Old River Road and Bay Road. I live there on the corner. Interestingly, I did not get a letter notifying me of this meeting like all of my neighbors did. I have no idea why that would be. My mail goes to a P.O. box, and it is not home delivery. I see the way this is going. We're already worried about building concrete plants to build these warehouses. And that's what we're talking about here is warehouses. Well, I want to ask you, gentlemen, where does it stop? Where does it stop? I go down the street and I see warehouses that are for rent. I see warehouses that are for sale. I see warehouses everywhere. I just want to know where it stops. Where do the people who build nice houses with your building permits, by the way, across the street from this, where is anyone looking for us? Where is anyone looking for us? And something else too. You're talking about building warehouses. How is that going to help Effingham County? It's going to put a dozen people who work driving forklifts. How is that helping us? I don't know if it's going to increase your tax base because God knows you're taxing us enough. I'm just saying there has been no consideration given to longstanding homeowners who live directly across the street. I didn't even get the courtesy of a notice. Okay? I've been there almost 20 years. People that live there are trying to build nice houses, trying to do the right thing. Mr. Hoover touched on the fact about the traffic. Old River Road's not gonna handle that. It's just not gonna handle it. There's an exit from this on Old Bud Road, I guess, but that's a dirt road. That's a dirt road. And I don't know what the plans are, but to put this panel knows as well as I do that the first 40 acres is going to turn into the 205 acres, and we're going to have warehouses, we're going to have noise, we're going to have corruption. We've got an industrial park that's owned by this county industrial development that's not full. They could build warehouses there. There's plenty of room. Why do we have to let the scourge take up our entire county? I just don't understand. Has anybody ran anything to determine how many warehouses have been built or what for? Mr. McCorkle was very astute. He said, well, the Cooper's going to sell this to somebody and they're going to make money. People, no doubt, from out of town are going to make money on this. It was a nice thing to be able to look over there across the street from my house and see a cotton field every year. I understand progress, but you go over Effingham County and there's thousands of acres that are not right jutted up against residential property. And I think it's about time that the residents of this county get a little bit of consideration from the people that are going to come in and strip the resources.
Thank you, Mr. Love.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Mike Love.
So I'm going to one-up you. Good for you. I'm going to one-up you. So my name is Stacy Jones Hartzog, and the property that I live on, my grandparents had for years and years, and we were neighbors with the Barnes family. So my property is directly adjacent to this property. So in other words, they will be my neighbors. And clearly I have concerns. We live, but now I'll be living between a warehouse project area and the convenience store, which is right next door. I'm like most people, I think. I don't mind the sense of progress, but I want to have a clear understanding of how it's going to impact my life, my everyday life. My parents live behind me on the property. So from Old River Road to Sandy Hill Road, that's our property. And they're going to be our neighbors for the length of that property. And I just have concerns. When you talk about a buffer, does that mean it's going to be a buffer between me and them, or is just a buffer where the roadway is concerned? How much truck traffic is there going to be? What type of warehousing could it potentially be? What is it going to mean for us that live there, and we've lived there and had homes there for years and years? So I know those are not questions that y'all are here to answer tonight, but I wanted y'all to know that we have our concerns. And I think they're legitimate concerns as far as what gets built on that piece of property. And I just have to challenge.
Ms. Hartzog, could you address the board, please?
I just wanted to challenge Mr. McCorkle on something. He said something about the viability of the agriculture there. I'm just going to call you out on that. That has been great agricultural land for as long as I can remember. They've grown cotton and soybeans on that property, so to suggest that it's not viable agricultural land is very misleading. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hartzog. Is there anyone else that wishes? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Starla Hamilton. I'm speaking for my father, Rufus Hamilton. We're concerned about everything across the street, but like she was saying, the neighborhood to the back of that property, how is it not a good agriculture property? It's wetland all the way to the back. Us that is right next to this piece of property, and front and back of our properties run to this 40 acres that's all wetland. We already flood. We have to maintain our own roads. We've been back there 20, 30 years. And you don't know the site plan at this point. So when y'all do decide to put a warehouse in there because y'all rezoned it to make more money, like when y'all do put a warehouse in there, where's the drainage going? We're already wetland. We already flood. It was just 2 years ago our roads were shut down. We were boating in and out for over a month. It's great agriculture land, like it grows, and it's affecting not across the street. Yes, it's affecting all of us that go up and down Old River Road, that live up and down Old River Road. But what about the long side, like she was saying, the long side of all that property, that 40 acres runs all to us residents.
When you say it runs all, you mean the water? Or you mean the length of the property runs?
And y'all don't know where the buffer's going in. Where's this, like she said, where's the traffic coming in at? Is it coming in?
So the buffer's around the perimeter.
So where it says Sandy Hill Road, not Uncle Bud, but the Sandy Hill Road side, all of us are
Sorry.
residents all over here.
Let me go back for you.
So-
I'm sorry.
That lake, all of us are residents. So it's all of us.
So, Mr. Chair, she needs to sign the document up front, please.
Can you sign in, please? Ms. Hamilton?
Nothing to sign in for.
Somebody took the pen.
I signed in over there when I came in.
Yeah, that's the
But I
deal.
didn't.
If you're gonna speak, you have to sign in, please. So,
There's nothing to sign. There's no paperwork up here.
Somebody must have took it.
Who took it?
paper.
Yeah.
Did anybody accidentally pick up the paper with their agenda?
It was a clipboard.
Clipboard? Anybody pick up the clipboard?
They have.
I think that gentleman.
Yeah.
You gotta watch me.
Does she want to
Did
sign
you
in
sign it
first?
as well? Did he sign it as well?
I don't know.
That's
She's
what I thought.
signing now. Okay. Thank you.
He's got to sign
So,
it.
Ms. Hamilton, is Uncle Bud Lane,
Uncle Bud Road,
Uncle Bud Road, that's a public road?
the dirt road.
It's
It leads all the way back to the river.
it's public, maintained by the county, or is it their private road?
I'm not sure about Uncle Bud.
Uncle Bud, okay.
It's Schuman Drive how I get to my home, and that's not maintained by y'all. We
But
maintain.
that's not on this property, is it, Schuman?
But we own this lake that goes to Sandy Hill Road that's going to be up to that.
Right, but that's all for this property, the lake.
The lake what?
The lake is not a part of this parcel, this 40 acres that we're looking at
No, but
tonight.
it's going to be up to all of us.
It's up to the property, correct. So to answer your question and clarify, the buffer is on the perimeter of the property. That's where the buffer goes. So goes all the way around the property. Roadside, sides, and it depends on the width of the buffer, depends on what's next to it. So, I mean, Ms. Chelsea, like she said earlier, because it's residential, it's required to be 300 feet. Now, there are some kickers that allow you to reduce the 300 feet down, but at that point, you have to start constructing a berm, and as the berm goes tall, then you reduce the width on the ground of the actual buffer. So that was the comment earlier, is when you have a field, a berm works very well to control noise, sound, the sound, the lights, everything, privacy with the berm. So, but to clarify, the buffer is on the outermost of the property, perimeter.
And on that particular piece of property, it's all four sides.
Correct, all four sides.
So that's like our residential.
Yes.
On that side.
Yes.
But
That
it's,
butts up to the lake.
but it's not on your property, it's on their property only. So if they choose to do 300 feet, they're gonna give up 300 feet of their property.
And as wet as all of that land is back there,
As wet.
as wet as all of that land is back
So,
there.
this is strictly a rezoning. They will be required to go before the Corps of Engineers, engineering, and a lot of other steps. And if it is wetlands, then they cannot build on it. The other thing is, they have to retain their water as is today after build out. So they'll have to build detention ponds and everything else so that they capture the water runoff, can't run off any faster after construction than it does today. So that's all set, not by the county, that's set by the state, Corps of Engineers, and everyone else.
But with our county allowing to change it to residential, or to industrial, we don't know what it's gonna be. We don't know none of that, so how are we affected long-term? We're
Excuse
already
me, sir,
flooding.
could we keep the side conversations down? So what they're asking for is light industrial warehousing, which is basically storage warehousing. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And the other thing is that when they are ready for their site development, they will have to come.
Meeting.
They will have to come back before the planning board and the board of commissioners with that site.
I get there's other meetings that's gonna be involved, but this is the first one to
That's
start
correct.
it off.
That is correct.
This is the first one to start it off,
We're that lucky.
to changing it.
That's right. So,
Microphone.
That was the only thing I was putting.
it's light industrial. It's no manufacturing. There's no smokestacks. They're not building or making anything. It's light industrial is what they're proposing and asking for. And just for the record, we don't make any money from this project.
I'm not saying y'all
Okay.
don't.
Okay.
It's just the rezoning of the property, like, you can't tell me residential and commercial cost the same, and it's taxed the same. And, I mean, just that lake alone, like, I mean,
Mr.
it's
Chair.
nothing but water. The taxes
All right.
around there's already crazy.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton.
And Mr. Chair, to answer your question, that Uncle Bud Drive is a county maintained road.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna ask once again that we keep the comments down, please, so that the board can hear, and everything that's said, please, is addressed to this board. These meetings are being taped. These ladies work very diligently to make sure all these minutes are kept, word by word, and it is very hard to do when they can't hear what's being said, either up here or at that podium. So, thank you. Yes, sir.
Hey, my name's Paul Clark, and I live right here in the pink section, right here on the corner. When I pull out my driveway, that's the first thing I see, is I look out and I see the beautiful cotton. Used to be cattle out there, used to be all kinds of stuff. They already pulled something right across the street from me. They were supposed to build a church there, then that property was sold, now there's dump trucks there. And there's 85 dump trucks there every day with pressure hot water, you hear impact wrenches and all this kind of stuff. Now, they did put a berm up, and they did do everything that was requested at that time. But across the street from us is not industrial. That's all homes, nice homes that have been built with our own hands. Me and my wife worked 4 jobs to build this home. We built most of it with our hands. This young man right here built his home house, did the whole thing, built it. And now they're coming along, and I understand, like you said, with progress and all this stuff. But we didn't move up here 20 years ago to listen to trucks beep, beep, beep all night. If it's industrial warehousing, and they say they don't know what's going on, they've already put power out there. There's a power pole got set today with transformers on it. And I asked the guys what's going on. He said it's for the warehouse they're building right there.
Well, they're not doing anything yet. I mean, they can put a power pole on their property if they want to, but they're not beginning construction of any warehouse.
I mean, the power pole's not actually on their property. I guess it's on the easement. It's right underneath the power poles they just did, but they said it was put there for that property. And I mean, like I said, we've all worked hard over there. We got young kids over there that catch the bus and things like that. And, I mean, if you're gonna do this thing, if it's already in motion, we want a berm, and we want it up there. We want it so we can't see it, hear it, And like I said, there's other families that live around, all the way around that thing. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Hey, I'm Stephen Morris. I live at 1291 Old River Road. That's directly in front of the property.
Sign a clipboard, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. So you live right across the road? Across the Old River Road?
Right across from it. I've been there 20 years too, and I built that house by my hands. It's the only reason I can afford a house like that. All of the houses are right there. That's Megan's Bay subdivision that goes around there. It's a whole subdivision. All of those houses are $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 houses. Very nice. And, I hate, I've been in this county 35 years, all over the county. Raised my kids here, and I've seen it from the beginning. And I just hate to see where this county is going, all these warehouses. I just think you're just ruining the landscape of this whole county. I mean, I see it going in all the other counties, but I've always thought Effingham County was above and better than all the rest. And I just hope, you know, like Mike said, where does it end? You know, these warehouses, they belong in industrial parks or in big tracts of land where there's not residential already there. And y'all have, you know, y'all could send these people, this development, up the road, and they'll find another place, you know, to get a piece of land and build another warehouse. But, you know, if this does go through, if y'all have already made up your mind, I am worried about a lot of things because I'm right there in front of it. I'm worried about, of course, the noise. Definitely would have to be some type of really, really big berm, and I'm thinking, you know, Ely Agnes on the top of it and everything. But I saw how y'all did on Chimney Road in front of Silverwood, and they had a tree line right there. So they've already cut down all the trees that are already there, but they could, you know, you say they got 300 foot to work with. They could replant a bunch of trees to you know, cover up a lot of the lighting. That's what I'm worried about, a lot of lighting coming from that to my house. So that's a big issue. If we could get a tree line, the berm, that would help a lot. The traffic, I guess we're just gonna have to deal with it. It's already terrible. But it's ruining a great area. We got Meldrum, which is right around the corner. Beautiful little town. And I've heard all the stories about, you know, all the development that's coming, the 4-laning. I'm not sure if is that coming?
We don't know.
Don't know.
Well,
Do you know?
it was on the T-Splosh round. I don't know if it was necessarily 4-laning, but improvements to Old River Road was on the list of T-Splosh projects that the
Yes.
county voted in last.
Yes.
So all I would ask is if you had to make a vote to vote to put a warehouse in front of your house, what would you decide? I'm gonna leave you on that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Morris.
I'm signing in.
Thank you.
I'm Teresa Conyers, and I actually live right across from this. So if you see where the big pink is on the corner, my house is the next one over, this way, on Old River Road. That's it. I've been there almost,
Ma'am,
a
could you
little
come to the
over.
Microphone.
microphone, please?
I've been there a little bit over 8 years. I love it there. We moved out there because we wanted to get away from all the industrial, all the city. And I want to back up all my neighbors of what they've said, so I don't want to repeat, but I believe everything that they say is absolutely true. At night, it is beautiful out there. Once you come out and sit in my driveway and look up at the stars, it is dark, it is peaceful, it is beautiful. And that's really all I want to say. I hope that this doesn't pass because you're going to take away just everything that we've worked really hard for. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
My name is Joel Stewart, and I'm not in the area that's being disputed here. I started coming to these meetings because my wife and I moved here about 1.5 years ago. We lived in Henry County, Georgia, McDonough, for 12 years before that. I have seen firsthand what this kind of unchecked development does to a community, to a neighborhood, to a county. And I would highly urge everyone on this committee, and I urge our county commissioners, to go to Henry County and see what this looks like. It is not a pretty picture. You can't easily fix the roads after all these things are here. You can't undo it after you change the zoning. You have to have roads and schools and sewers to have room for all these things and to prepare for all these things. And when you do it backwards, it makes a mess. And in a few years, you're going to have even more of a mess trying to fix the roads after all the traffic is on it. So I started coming to these meetings just to express this as an idea. This is not close to my house. Most of these things aren't close to my house. I live off Ebenezer Road, which is busy enough. We've seen enough new traffic on 21 up where we are in the year and a half we've been here. But I would strongly urge everybody that's making these decisions to go look and see what this looks like. It is brutal. It is not a pretty picture, and it doesn't get any better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak, either in favor or against this request?
Let's go.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. McCorkle, we're going to close public comment, but we'll give you just a minute if you'd like to rebut a few things you've heard.
Thank you. I just want to say that I understand the concern of the residents that have spoken here tonight, and I've heard similar concerns on many projects, both in this county and in adjacent counties. And, you know, people, I understand the desire for people, for the properties that are adjacent to them to be residential like theirs is. There's also always a desire that the property next to them continue to be trees or continue to be farmland, and it is pretty to look at. But in most of this county probably was all farmland and trees at one point in time before those residential neighborhoods were developed, and before any of the areas were developed. But times change over the course of long periods, and a lot of these folks have lived there for 20 years. And 20 years ago, we wouldn't have been up here asking for this rezoning, because certainly the area that is surrounding this has changed over that 20-year period, though I understand that they believe it's for the worst. Looking at the maps, even the maps for this, the industrial areas that are around, almost all of them are immediately adjacent on one side at least to some residential development. And so there are lots of properties that are residential that back up to or face resident or industrial developments, including the north side of our property, which is immediately adjacent to property that's been rezoned industrial. But we do have standards. I don't think it's unchecked. I think we have an ordinance, we have buffer requirements, we have berm requirements, we have site planning, we have things that are done in order to protect these residents. And when that process goes through, we'll have to meet those requirements. But as it stands now, given what has happened around this piece of property, again, I don't think it's likely that it's going to be built to be a residential neighborhood. I don't think this property is going to stay farmland forever. Looking at what's around it, the logical use for it, at least on the uplands portion of it, which is frankly smaller than the majority of the property, would be for an industrial use. And with that, we again ask for your support of staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Sir, is there any questions for him? I mean, I do have one question. So speaking to Uncle Bud Drive, I mean, how do you plan, what's your plan for it? I mean, you're going to use it as a road? I mean,
I suspect it will likely be the entrance point. Again, I don't have a site plan for what they're going to do. If it's a county road, it's news to us, at least as far as the county maintaining it. I don't believe the county's been doing any maintenance of that road in quite some time. The back end portion of that road, actually, maybe there's county portion to some part. The back end of it is gated and leads back to the river back in the back. So at least some portion of it is private, but I suspect that when a site plan is developed for the site, that will likely be the entrance point.
So will he be required to do buffer on both sides?
Well, the plat that was submitted labels.
That's speculative. We got to see what the site plan looks like.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain real conditions here, one of which we own all the property on the other side of Uncle Bud. Also, everything to the rear of us is wetlands for a very long distance. So I would suspect there will be some buffer and berm discussions when a site plan comes along. Obviously, we've got two sides that have to be dealt with where we have neighbors, but otherwise we don't really have neighbors on the other two sides.
So currently this will be a split zone because it's one piece of property. So keep that in mind. So it's still under single ownership. And even though they're going to rezone part of it, that zoning of which it is opposite of is AR1. They're not rezoning the entire piece that they own. So there'll be buffer requirements for the part that they're doing. That makes sense?
Just rezoning 40 of the two.
So,
other than-
so
So
the
it's split
survey we're
zoning.
looking at right now has not been recorded, but that is the 40 acres that we're
But
we're
it
talking
is,
about.
he's not asking for a split. He's asking to rezone 40 acres.
That's it, right?
So one of the conditions is that we're not requiring them to subdivide that?
Okay, I got you.
You need to ask Ms. Chelsea if that's in her staff report.
That's the, okay.
I don't think there's a requirement in the staff report for us to subdivide it.
It is a split zone.
It would be a split zoning, so we wouldn't have a property line. We'll have a property line to the south where the residences are adjacent. We will have a property line obviously facing onto Old River Road, but we would not have a property line at Uncle Bud.
And for a site plan to be submitted, okay, to answer the buffer questions, it's much more advantageous to not have a split than to keep it in single ownership. Because then you'll have to address the fact that there's 3-4 sides to the 40 acres. If you get a split, or you don't get a split, then it's the opposite of what's gonna occur. It could be in dual ownership and not in single ownership. That make sense?
It does, but we rezone from AR1 to AR2 constantly because we say you can't have a split zoning on a piece of property. So I'm
It's
confused by
not
that.
written anywhere in the ordinance that you cannot have a split zoning anywhere at all.
Okay. Noted for future.
Yes. There's been a preference not to have split zoning in the past.
On a parcel of land, on the entire parcel, there's.
On the entire parcel of land, there's been a preference not to have a split zoning.
Yeah, that's news to me as well.
So are you saying because it is split zoned, it would have, that 40 acres would have to be buffered on all sides?
Yes, sir?
Yeah.
Even though they own the AR1 land on the other side?
The buffering goes with the zoning,
Yeah.
it does not go with the ownership.
Oh. So it'll still be around the perimeter of this parcel
Yep.
that we're rezoning, this 40 acres. Do we have any additional questions, Mr. McCorkle? Thank you, sir. All right, at this time, I'm gonna close public comment, discussion for the board.
Chelsea, do you have a larger image of the land use map
Just set
than
it
what
for
we've
now.
been seeing?
I don't, but I can pull one up for you if you'd like to see it.
I'm just curious what was a little lower down.
One moment for me.
On 40 acres, they can't put 300 feet all the way around it.
No. You good?
She was pulling up a land use map for the
Thank you.
we don't have to look at it. I was just curious what was further south on there, but,
I mean, if that was, if they built a residential community on there, how many houses could they put on there on 40
Depends on what
acres?
the zoning is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if, is this on county? They don't-
just-
No?
it's kind of reminded me of, McCall Road where we did that split there, and you had the residential and the creek kind of cut it off.
In the back?
And, yeah, and if you look at the land use map, it's like right in front of that residential neighborhood. It would have been better to do the property on the other side of Uncle Bud Drive.
I mean, I do agree with a couple of the several of the comments I heard, and I mean, I'm not comfortable, if this is approved without, detailing what kind of buffer we're gonna have here.
Yeah,
because-
that's why I started with the question. I didn't mean to cause confusion about the rest of the perimeter of the property, but in particular, the unit, the Old River Road, and there's often confusion of whether or not the buffer applies across the road, and does it, so from what I heard, the same 300-foot buffer applies
300 foot
around
all
the
the way
entire
around?
perimeter, assuming it were to be rezoned. Because it is sensitive, obviously. I mean, if I drive Old River Road twice a day and know that those are nice houses, and I recognize the sensitivity they have to that. I think that map doesn't accurately portray either. The existing trees that are on that triangle there are gone now, so it's pretty wide open. There's not much preservation that could happen there. So if this board is willing to consider the rezone, I think we should recommend as a condition that the berm be a not an option, but it's a requirement from a standpoint of protection of the adjacent neighbors, as well as just the fact that there's really nothing to preserve to create a buffer in the first place.
It seemed like the other parcel on the other side of Old
Microphone.
Uncle Bud Drive would have been a better alternative.
Microphone, please, so we can hear you.
It seemed like the other parcel on the other side of Uncle Bud would have been a better option because of the fact that it's bordered by industrial and it's not straight across the street from those
But,
houses.
I mean, it's his land and his right.
I know.
Yeah, so.
It is transitional. I think that's what the future land use map was what we said, transitional. Which means it's difficult to define, right? I think that's the whole thing, is it's gonna be a transition between the existing residential, the community of Meldrum, what is an interstate and interchange, it's the only one that we have, and, you know, Old River Road is a transitional area, no doubt. There's a lot of industrial around it, and no doubt, probably more proposed.
And a lot of houses too.
A lot of houses too, yep.
Any further discussion?
No.
Brad, did you get the map you were,
I've seen enough. I didn't, I'm good.
all right, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to follow staff recommendation for approval of the rezoning from AR1 to I1, but add the following two conditions, is that the buffers where it's adjacent to Old River Road and any adjacent property that's not under their current ownership must include a berm and the options that we have in our current code for the buffering. And the second is that I do believe it should be subdivided and created so we don't have a split zoning.
All right, we have a motion to approve with two stipulations. Are you gonna put a height on that berm? Because we do have several options.
3,
Yeah, we have three options.
10, 16, and 25.
10, 6,
Do 25 is reduced to 150 feet. If you do 16, it's reduced to 200. And if you do 10, I can't remember, but it's less than that.
And that information is on your staff report.
yes.
Right. Well, I think
Awesome.
I know that I don't know exactly what would be best in the future, so I would leave that to be the sketch plan thing that we can define, unless the rest of the board wants to define something. I'm certainly happy to do that, but I don't know the best one of that, and I don't want to make an assumption that more space might not be better in a situation in a shorter berm. So I'm going to leave mine as the berm is included, and that's determined, the final plan is determined at the time of a future sketch plan.
All right, everybody understand? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Mrs. Zipper, all's in favor? Any opposed?
No, I'm not opposed.
You're in favor?
Favor.
You're opposed? Motion carries 4-1. This moves forward to the commissioners with a recommendation, and they may choose a much different path, so. Thank you for everyone's time and input. A lot of good
Mr. Chair?
conversation. Yes, sir.
I believe somebody mentioned they did not get notified. Am I correct? Will
Mr.
you
Love?
please give her your address and email so we can do it double time?
Of course.
Thank you very much before you leave.
Tax bills get there really promptly.
Well, thank you very much for that. We want to make sure this notice gets there too for you, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4 is a public hearing for Rebecca Tucker as agent for Ferris Floyd. Request to rezone plus or minus 2 of 7 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a new home site located on Low Ground Road. This is the first district. Miss Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So the applicant is subdividing the 2 acres to create a new home site. That 2 acres falls below the 5-acre threshold needed for AR1. So they are asking to rezone to AR2 to be in zoning conformance. Again, this is consistent with our future land use map. So staff recommends alternative number 1.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions, Miss Chelsea, this time? Is there a representative for Miss Tucker? Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
I'm Rebecca Tucker. I am the daughter of the current owners of the property, and the plan is to divide that 2 acres off so that we can build beside my parents.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions, comments at this time? Anyone have anything to add? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Call for a motion.
I make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you, ma'am. Item 5 is a public hearing for James Dasher as agent for Lane Nolan Earl Jr. Request to rezone plus or minus 185 acres from R1 to R5 to allow for residential development located at 311 Earl Lane Road. Ms. Chelsea.
I've got it.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's got to go. Motion.
You have to abstain from items 5 and 6?
That's great.
All right.
Yeah.
I need a motion to recuse Mr. Thompson from items 5 and 6.
So moved.
And to recuse Mr. Thompson from items 5 and 6.
Got a motion. Alan, second.
Second.
Second, Mrs. Zipper. All in favor? Motion carried, ball. Ms. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So, the applicant is proposing an approximate 260 single-family detached residential development that will be served by county water and sewer. The proposed development is the second phase of the approved Fetzer Lakes development. The first phase was approved by the Board of Commissioners on January 17th of 2023. This will be our first R5 rezoning if approved by the county. I have included in your staff report the R5 ordinance because it is our first request. The applicant has provided over 35 acres of open space, which does exceed the required 15% that is needed. The applicant is also working as part of that planned development that was approved in 2023 to improve Earl Lane Road. So that is in the process. The rezoning is consistent with the future land use map, and I can show you that real quick. So that light green there does show agricultural residential. So that's our future land use map that you see there. Staff is recommending alternative number 1.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Questions, Ms. Chelsea, currently? Mr. Dasher, yes, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen, staff. Congratulations, Chairman Burns. We're bringing this project to you tonight. We've had it for quite some time, but we wanted to make sure we had some type of traffic relief. And we've got the traffic light at Highway 30 Hodgeville, which we're very grateful for, which is temporary fix until the roundabout comes. This project, although we're here as phase 1, we had it approved more than a year ago, and we haven't started developing. This project here will not see development until 2026, but just a preliminary. There's so much work to do between now and then. But by the time we develop this project, the parkway should be up and running. The 2 roundabouts on Hodgeville should be in place. So we just ask you for your blessings tonight to grant us our zoning for this project.
All right, thank you. Questions, comments? All right, so I feel like this is the 3rd time we've seen this, is it not?
This is a different project than what you've seen.
This is the new, this is phase 2?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
you've seen phase 1, which was the planned development.
Right.
And then you've seen the planned development come before you again for a text amendment. And now this is phase 2, which is they're asking for R5 rezoning for this.
And
Had they had R5 to begin with, they probably would have done that from
Right.
the start.
Correct, yeah.
and you're paving Earl Lane?
We're paving it
Plan.
for our development, and we're working with staff to try to punch it all the way out to
For a
Clark County.
developer agreement.
It's not our property to pave, but we're working with staff trying to acquire that right of way and
All right. Any additional questions or comments at this time? All right, thank you, Mr. Dasher.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, good evening.
I'm Jennifer Steptoe, and I live at 333 Colic-Kelmy Road, which this is going in our backyard. And, you know, I initially lived there when we moved to Georgia from North Dakota back in like 1980. And I remember how much everybody in the county hated us as the new people. You know, I mean, just the drama of new people, you know, and back then that was all the Finley's property. That's who my dad had initially bought it from. And I grew up playing in those woods, and there is so much water. I mean, do you know how much water is back there? I mean, that corner used to flood, and even recently, Hodgeville has flooded, water over the road going, you know, we used to take, back when I was married, well, dating my ex-husband, we used to take his Volkswagen mud bogging back through those woods and the property there where, across the way, where Coldbrook used to be, you know, the actual mansion, not the subdivision. And I mean, like I said, there is just so much water and so much wildlife. And I see that this is zoned wetlands, you know, that's right behind our property. And like I've told people that, you know, have asked me how I feel about it, this coming in. We knew it would come in. We knew it would come in eventually. I'm not opposed to development. I mean, heck, there's been times I wish I could bulldoze our house and put, you know, my son a house and my nephew a house and just, you know, a little cul-de-sac there. But when this wetlands, are they gonna clear cut it and then put their own idea of wetlands in? Or are they gonna leave the existing trees alone? You know, and there's like this 30-foot buffer that's supposed to be there. Is that gonna be a fence? Is that gonna be a berm? Because our properties hold water, as it is sometimes. You know, which it all slopes from Colic-Kelmy back. You know, I mean, if there's a berm there, I'm not gonna have woods behind my house, the woods that we own. We're gonna have a swamp.
So, as far as the wetlands goes,
Mr.
I mean,
Chair, could she point out where she lives on that map for us, please?
Okay, you got, coming down Colic-Kelmy, you got these last three houses. You see this green line come down, come straight down, go this way, keep going. That's the Zapatas. The next one over is me. That's the Allie Goldridge's place next door that's got the three houses. My other fear is that somehow they're gonna acquire one of those properties like Allie's house and put another road in there that is gonna run right beside our property to Colic-Kelmy.
that's not proposed at this time.
Not at this time, and how long until the wetlands, because, you know, you see like Westwood, they have crammed every little thing they can into Westwood, into, you know.
So I can answer two of your questions. Number one, if it's wetlands, they won't be clearing it. I mean, it's protected by the Corps of Engineers.
So that's gonna be left alone.
Unless they can pay for the mitigations to do
Because
so.
we've got chickens and, you know, goats and everything, and there's hawks that nest back there, and I've come to believe that they're my pet hawks almost, because, you know, they stock my chicken pen, and they said they not nest back there, and I look for them raising their babies every year. We have a mean rooster. We leave them out. Here you go, you know.
So the good
Pay
part.
the hawk tax.
The good part of a big majority of this property is, you're correct, it is wetlands. So the wetlands buffers the neighbors, the residential area by this site plan. So there's not a lot of areas on this entire perimeter that has a lot of residential homes backing up to other residential homes, because
That's
it's
what I noticed,
almost
that
surrounded by
properties,
wetlands.
the empty properties have got houses next to them, but us that have, that are occupied, we have wetlands, and are they gonna try to do something to it?
With the wetlands?
Yeah.
No, ma'am. I mean, he's presented this plan as is. The Corps of Engineers monitors these wetlands, so.
Staff monitors wetlands.
County monitors them as well, so.
We got a fox that, I haven't seen him this year. I'm worried he got hit. You know, that my dogs are always trying to run off, because, you know,
But
like I said, we've got the chicken pen, and they like to hang out.
I will get from Mr. Dasher about the buffer where it matters, where it is residential to residential.
You know, like I said, is it gonna be a berm? Is it gonna be a privacy fence? Is it gonna be just, you know,
It's,
trees?
The ordinance requires 30 feet.
30 feet.
Yeah, I know it's
That's
30
the
feet,
requirement.
but,
So, but we'll ask him for clarification
yeah,
what he plans to do.
if there's something going in the buffer.
Thank you, Ms. Stepton.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name's James Thames. I live in the middle of it.
at 351 Earl Lane. And what I'm concerned about is with the R5, basically R5 minimum is what, 6,000 square feet? Are we gonna hold them to the 250 count, house count? Or is there build out? Because I mean, there's sections in here that are not listed as being built out in, but would require, is there future plans?
I mean, he has to follow the rules set forth by the county or the county commissioners. You know, this is early on, so he will get in there and do some wetlands work. It may vary plus or minus, but it's not going to vary much.
All right, so what's the total hard coverage?
Ms.
On the
Chelsea?
108 I thought it was 187, but I see y'all got 185 placed.
Ms. Chelsea, do you have those numbers?
So based on the site information here that has been provided by the applicant, he's showing his total site as 180.8 acres. For his net usable acreage, he's showing 111.2. I'm sorry, yes, 111.2 acres. That's net usable. So.
Okay. So how much is he got in slabs and roads and unpermeable ground?
That I will let Mr. Dasher answer for you, because I do not have that information here in front of me, but I'll let Mr. Dasher answer that for you, sir.
Well, he can answer. I'm just curious, the water, when it leaves off, if you look at the Earl Lane as a whole, you got all the drainage that comes from behind the school and the two subdivisions come over, and it crosses on his corner, goes towards the back, in between the other two subdivisions. It used to be called the Stevens Field, goes back out to Hodgeville. And then the water on the subdivision that's coming in off Hodgeville Road drains back down, and all that was part from the others. They come in on the other side. There's two creeks that feed into one creek that crosses under Hodgeville Road through a 24-inch pipe into Half Moon and back out across Goshen Road that now floods. And all that ground fills up with water, and that's all the drainage for those four subdivisions going down Colic-Helmy.
Mr. Chair, the
now we're fixing to lay
stormwater
all this in here.
requirements now are different than they were back then,
Yeah, I mean,
and we're pretty good about enforcing them.
Well, you got all that water to deal with. And my fear is the lower end of my place now don't hold water, and that it's going somewhere. I don't know what y'all gonna do with it, but water's gonna be an issue.
so just to answer your original question, I mean, just some simple math. 206 plus or minus 260 single-family lots own a net usable acreage of 111. I mean, it's approximately what, two and a half units to the acre.
So, I mean, 2-inch rain, you're looking at roughly 10 million gallons of water.
His engineer has to plan for what to do with that water as it is today.
And it cannot leave the site.
That's what I wanted to hear. Water not leaving the site, who do I come get?
Well, it can't leave at any faster rate than it leaves today. It can leave the site.
That's state law.
It can't leave any faster than it leaves today.
I mean, those are the laws of the state. I mean, we don't set those. I know that's not. I know you don't trust that, but that's.
I don't trust. No, sir. I have no. I know my man here. Just as soon as somebody tells me something, I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, there are laws in place to protect.
Yeah, and then we're gonna put all these people in the school that's already big enough for them, and send another bus down, and all this traffic's gonna run right out onto that road, and won't be an issue when it hits that roundabout.
I can't say that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Do you have anything further, Mr. Thames?
No, sir. That's
Please sign, thank you.
that's of a mess.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Helen Zapata, and my husband and I live on Colic Helmy Road at 345, next to Miss Jennifer. Yeah. And one of the concerns that I have, which has already been voiced to some degree, but is the traffic. One day, about a year ago, my husband and I left our house, which is mid-Colic Helmy. You know, I used to say 7 houses from Hodgeville down to our house. Now it's 13. And we got down to to Hodgeville. We made it almost to Highway 30. And it took us 30 minutes to get to Highway 30 from our house, which is about a mile and a half, 2 miles. I can't even imagine what 2 more subdivisions on Erlane Road. Have y'all been down Erlane Road? It's a beautiful little road. It's a beautiful area. I can't imagine all of these numerous houses being there. I mean, I don't know why we can't put a park there. You know, it's just so pretty. But the traffic, I can sit in my house at 2:30 in the afternoon, and the traffic backs up from Hodgeville past my house. I couldn't even get out of my driveway if I wanted to. That's what we see every single day. And if there's a school, something going on, you can forget it. You can't even get out of your driveway. Is that the truth?
Yes, yes, it is.
And I'm all for progress. That's why we moved out here. We lived in Savannah. We moved out here for the schools, for the beauty of the county. I understand people wanting to move out here. I do. I get it. But I also know that the roads can't take it anymore. Also, like he said, with the water, we have some wetlands in there. You can't even flush the commode sometimes. I mean, it's that bad. When they built Kensington in across the street, we had engineers tell our neighbors on the other side that moved out about 2 years ago, they had to put in a whole new system because the engineers told them that the water coming from Kensington was running over on Colic Helmy, messing up our systems to where we couldn't even flush sometimes. So you live in a $500,000-$600,000 house. I don't think you should need to have to worry about that. That's pretty, you know. So anyway, considerations there in some of the things that we have to deal with. And like I said, I understand progress. I like progress. I'm okay with that. But those are just some of the concerns that we have with that kind of a number of houses moving in to the area, along with everything else. Thank y'all.
Yes, sir. My name's Robert Collins. I reside at Lot 417E19, which is in Effingham Forest, which is going to be directly impacted by this new subdivision. My first concern is deforestation is going to deprive a lot of animals of their habitats. I have personally seen great horned owls, pileated woodpeckers, foxes residing in the woods behind my house. You walk up my back door, you see wetlands. All right, and we were told when we bought the house that they could not be built upon. And I would request this board not pass any zoning ordinances that jeopardize this beautiful piece of property. I mean, I look at that map up there and I don't believe it, because I see the surveyors coming behind my property, putting ribbons up right up against my property line. But the deforestation is my major concern, depriving the wildlife of their territory. Okay. My second concern is what everybody else has been speaking about here today. You're adding, what, 250, 300 new homes? Obviously, you guys don't travel. I live in Savannah, so obviously you guys don't travel from where I live to Savannah every day to go down Hodgeville, to go down Colic Helmy, to go down Hodgeville Road, to try to get onto, Route 30 to get to 21. It's a nightmare. And when you're adding that many new homes constantly, I mean, where is the contingency plan? Where are the new roads? Where are the improvements to improve traffic flow? I mean, and thirdly, this is a little bit selfish, but I don't want to go out in my backyard and see somebody else's house back there. I don't want to do it. I bought the home for the view, for its location, for the tranquility that those wetlands provided. And I know that's aesthetics, okay, I get that, but it's still a concern. It seems like this county is not gonna be happy until it's a parking lot. Savannah 2.0. That's the reason people moved here, is to avoid that kind of situation. So I appreciate your time, appreciate your ear, and I would appreciate that this rezoning, if not altered, be eliminated. Because you're losing Effingham County. You built warehouses 50 yards down from an elementary school that's going to see, on McCall Road. When is enough going to be enough? What's wrong with the industrial park on 21 right there at Old Augusta Road? Why can't they build them there? Why do you have to build 2 warehouses right there 50 yards from middle school, or elementary school? And that's ridiculous. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
Good evening, guys. So, we're just on the bottom left corner of this map. Also, I have a home on Scuffletown.
Name?
Sir, could
Oh,
you
I'm
state
sorry.
your name, please? Thank you.
Chris Morris.
Mr. Morris.
Thank you.
Sign a
And
clipboard.
could you please sign in as well?
Thank you.
Mr. Morris.
You know, many of the points that I want to make, of course, have already, the same concerns that the others before me have mentioned. You know, when you look at the map, right below the map, right below the property we're talking about, this was the site of Wild America movie, 20 years ago. It's, you put things like this in, obviously use that appeal that, the reason that was selected to be filmed at that location. Additionally, we live on Collikelmy. We deal with the traffic every day. It took me, late coming in here today, dealing with the traffic coming up to this location. The schools there, they're tremendous schools. And the homes that you see there around that area, those are the kids that are attending school close to this property. And there's a lot of cookie cutter subdivisions, and crowded schools already, is not going to make that any easier. I'm sure there's additional planning for more, but they're not here yet. And I think, we need to get that squared away before we move forward with more development. 500 homes, someone mentioned the light at the end of Hodgeville that made things more efficient. It, hasn't really made things more efficient. It's slowing us down. We need more than a light, more than the future roundabouts at some point. It's just no space for the type of property that we bought into. Those are my concerns, the schools, keeping the schools at the level they're at, and improving the traffic situation, not making it worse.
All right, thank you, Mr. Morris. So just for the record, we've discussed drainage, the wetlands, the wildlife, traffic, obviously, and schools. So, we could not belabor those points. I mean, we understand, and believe me, we understand those concerns. Yes, sir. Can you get your name?
Brian Helmy. I am the bottom of that whole property. All of, that's my family's land. I mean, all the people that's come in and moved in and all I've seen, I've been there for 55 years. My parents have been there for 80-something years, and my grandparents way longer than that. We've had subdivisions move in all around us. They talk about the water, all that drains on us, Raven Estates. They're gonna contain the water. Well, they contained it. It's on our land. South Effingham stuff, that water, it's on our land. It washes through our roads. Pecan Lane gets flooded. Those are concerns that if it follows through, that's stuff that we'll have to fix, or stuff that I personally will have to see about. Of course, the traffic, the roundabouts and stuff, all that's for traffic that's now, not what's gonna be. You know, those are some things in the schools, I mean, y'all already know the drill, so. But our concern is like trespassing. I've had people, fences, is there gonna be a fence or something to put up because the property line is right there, there's houses right on the property line. The wetlands, I've been on every square foot of that land. I've hunted that land all my life. I know where all the wetlands are. I've got pictures of the swamps. I know where everything's at. So it's just my concern of where everything's gonna be, if this follows through. If it doesn't, then that's fine. If smaller or less houses, something, just keep all that stuff like in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Helmy.
Hi, my name's Heather Edenfield. I live on Scholar Road, which is the bottom left corner of the area. Kind of wrote everything down, so I'm nervous. I don't want to lose my place here. I've only lived here 2 years, but the reason that we bought out here is because we want to be in the country. We want a good school system. We don't want to live in a suburb. We enjoy the trees and the wildlife. And I'm happy, I have to be very frank today, I'm very happy to see that fortunately we do have wetlands behind our yard, and they're not going to be building the house right up to our property line. It does appear so. But nevertheless, I do strongly oppose the building of more residential, especially so close to my property and other properties. And also the amount of houses that are going in per buildable acre. The new construction will be displacing the wildlife, and I'm really bothered to see the removal of nature and the natural elements that country living has to offer. Have there been any wildlife studies done to find out the impact that this may have on them and possible endangered species? It's just something to think about. We purposely bought a house with one side that had a natural tree line for privacy, as somebody else spoke about. I highly dislike the removal of trees, and if this new build is approved, I would propose that they leave a 100-foot tree line between all properties to accommodate not only for noise, but the concerns for the floodplains and wetlands as mentioned, wildlife and privacy. I also have major concerns, as mentioned, about the traffic at Colic-Helmy and Hodgeville stop sign, as well as the opposite side of Colic-Helmy and Highway 30 stop sign. It already takes up to 30 minutes to get through these areas during peak hours. So with more residents, I can't even imagine how long it would take. I understand that there may be talk for the traffic circles or possible traffic lights at each intersection. I don't know when that is going to happen, but if it is approved, I strongly suggest that that infrastructure is put into place before more trucks come to build and more residents arrive. But even then, it really makes me sad to have traffic lights and the elimination of that country feel that we have right now. Lastly, I also have concerns about the additional children that it would bring into South Effingham Elementary School, the middle school, and the high school. Recently, our elementary school had to rezone their district to accommodate for the already growing area. And with the addition of this new residential area, and who knows how many more, it brings along concerns and questions about how the schools can handle more children. We don't want larger class sizes, and That would mean less attention towards each student, which would affect grades and testing scores. And currently Effingham has a lot of pride in their school systems and how good they are. So I ask you to consider the impact that more children will have in the area due to and will do to the school systems, and to have a plan in place before anything is approved today, and also to consider the allowance of so many houses in such a small area. Thank you.
Thank you. You did very good. Yes, ma'am.
I'm waiting for the next turn.
It's your turn. Alan, is this all we're looking at? Is this all we're looking at tonight, or are we looking at the whole thing?
Thank you for signing.
Where was the first development we approved?
Hi.
On the map.
My name is Tiffany Yarbrough. I'm not the best public speaker. I get pretty red when I'm talking in front of a lot of people, so please bear with me, as I am totally against this. And I hope that people have made y'all very aware of how this is going to impact our community, the traffic, our schools. Think about our teachers that already have overcrowded classrooms, that can't get around to every child that they need to. The nurses at the school, like the school just got redistricted like last year, and now we're trying to add a ton more homes. It just does not make sense. I live 0.4 miles away from South Effingham Elementary. And I will often drop my son off at school, and I have to wait 10, 15, sometimes if something's happened at the end of Call It Kill Me in 30, 20 minutes just to get back to my driveway. And it's crazy. And I won't even make a doctor's appointment or anything like that early in the morning, because I'm not going to try to fight that traffic to get out of there. It's crazy. And so one little roundabout is not going to help out this situation. Plus, I know it's not dealing with this specific thing, but there's going to be some more development, I believe, on the other side of Highway 30, right there close to Call It Kill Me. So that's going to be even more homes, and also the wildlife. And the property that the last woman was speaking about that lived on Scholar Road, I own the wetlands that backs up to her home. And my property corners where they are going to build. And I do not know how that is going to affect my property either. And it is wetland. And I know it's wetland because that property has been in my family for years and years and years. It was my great-grandfather's, and it may have went back more than that. And they sold a lot of this land to a lot of these people in here. And they would not like to see this happen. All the tractor trailers, all of the warehouses, how is that going to impact our taxes? I don't want smelly things in the air. What happened to Effingham? What happened for our kids to be able to grow up in an area that we just don't have to just ride by and just see concrete all the time? And my son is 6 years old, and he is sitting here representing his school, and that he wants to protect it. He wants it to stay in as good of a standing as it is, which is a great school. And the more people that we put in it before we are ready, it is going to be a travesty. And he has sat here quiet, more quiet than a lot of adults have in here this whole time, because he actually feels very passionate about this as well. And thank you.
Ms. Yarbrough, you might want to rethink your public speaking. You're pretty good at it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Daphne Hayes, and I live on Scholar Road, in the bottom corner of the picture. I'll just not second everybody else's already concerns, many of my same concerns. But what I specifically want to address that hasn't been addressed is, so the developer presented phase 1 under a plan development, which I just heard mentioned, somebody said that if there had been a R5, he would have submitted for R5, but the plan development rules that were set forth with the phase one show me that there was concern for the neighborhoods around them. Things like buffers and open space and some bigger lots. And so I'm concerned that the standards set in phase one were reduced. So we have wider lots, we have less minimum lot space, we have less requirements for open space and public space. And so if from phase one to phase two, we're already reducing our standards, what does that show me we're going to do with further development? And in addition to that, so it's common for neighborhoods to put the nicest, biggest houses out front. But this is the area, so phase one had more areas that were in farmland. Phase two is nice woods that all of us neighbors moved here for. Why not put big houses, nice houses back there instead of smaller houses? So I'd really like to see the density decreased. I'd like to see a raising of standards between phase one before phase two. And then the development even mentions potential for future phases. So I'm concerned that we're gonna see a push for an increase in more development or higher density. And that's just the wrong direction, and our neighbors don't want that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has any additional information?
Evening, guys. Robert Murray from, I live in Effingham Forest, pretty close to there. I'm new here in this beautiful state of Georgia. I escaped from New Jersey, and I hope you guys don't make it, this county like New Jersey, overpopulated, and the traffic is just horrible here. I might as well go back to New Jersey and sit in traffic there then, because it's pretty brutal.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who has any additional new information? Anyone else wish to speak? All right, I'm gonna close public comment. Open it up to discussion from the board. Does anybody have any questions for James? Mr. Dasher, could I ask you to come back to the podium, please? Thank you, sir. So, I mean, I know we heard one question that I think I would like to hear you speak to is where the homes adjoin, where your lots adjoin other residential property. I mean, is it buffer, is it fence, is it berm? It was asked. I mean, your plans for how you foresee proceeding.
Right now, Mr. Chairman, we've designed a community based on the ordinances for R5 zoning.
So you're a 35 foot?
30.
30, so just a 30-foot buffer.
Undisturbed.
Undisturbed.
And if it's not undisturbed, then they have to follow the ordinance as far as what they replace with.
All right.
It's much more suitable to keep it there than it is to replace it.
All right. Any other questions at this time?
And unfortunately, our T-Splosh, we've designated tens of millions of dollars to that specific area for traffic improvements. And we're seeing those now. They're in the plans. There again, we were going to make sure that some of that was already in play before we brought this phase aboard. And we're still 2 years out from developing this property. So by the time we begin development, the parkway should be in play, as well as several of the roundabouts that the county is doing. But
So, Mr. Dasher, your intention is to pave Earl Lane from Hodgeville up to the entrance of the subdivision, the new subdivision?
yes, sir. Well, phase one, we will go beyond, about 50 feet beyond the entrance, which is on both sides of Earl Lane. We're working with the county. We don't own the property between there and phase two, so obviously we can't pave that. But we're working with the county in an effort to try to get Earl Lane paved all the way through. But we can't pave it because it's not
You
our
don't own
property.
it.
Yes, sir.
That is a true statement. That's a true statement.
When you said all the way through, do you mean all the way to Colic Hilmy or just?
That is the desire,
Yes,
and
the
that's been our
wish.
conversation with staff.
All right. Anything further from Mr. Dasher?
So the density of the usable acres is about roughly 2.5 houses per acre?
Yes, sir.
In that neighborhood?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Fortunately, we've got, I say fortunately, we got wetlands, but we do have that natural buffer that surrounds the majority of these properties. Majority of these homes will not see us. There are a few up on Colic Hill. I mean, I think there's 3, 4, 5, something like that, and then there's some in the very bottom.
There's a few more, but yes, not many
Correct.
on the
yeah.
property line. That's correct.
But the majority of them, you'll have that natural buffer. And we, there again, as Ms. Chelsea commented, we've exceeded the green space that's required for R5 zoning.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Dasher.
Thank you, thank you.
Miss. Do you wish to speak to that, Alan? The one in the middle, Mr. Thames?
Yeah, you can come up.
I mean, you don't have anything,
I was just curious what the buffer would be or how it's gonna sit for my house.
I mean, you're buffered, as you see on that map, by wetlands and a pond.
Wetland and a pond.
Well, that's a strip of, or either no strip of green space. Amenity area, the green space. I think that's you, isn't it?
I'm sorry, let me get back. There we
Mr.
go.
Chair.
Right here.
Where is he talking about?
Where he's showing
This is your property right here, Mr. Thames?
351. Yeah, that's me right there.
You're right here?
That's it.
All right, go back.
So then you're right
So
here?
there's a detention pond,
Which is right here?
And
There's
30
the
feet of
buffer,
undisturbed buffer
and
and a
there's
detention.
some green amenity surrounding
Mm-hmm.
the pond. Next to you.
So it looks as though there's about 60 feet before that initial lot at the end of that road.
Right here.
So, all right, I'm gonna close public comment at this time. Discussion from the board. Any discussion? I mean, this is not easy. I mean, this is, to me, this comes down to a lot of landowner rights, and we're all landowners in here, and everybody's got, their right. I mean, and it's tough. I agree with everything that everybody said, but when I look at these people and what's happened around them, the Helmies, now we're not going to allow them to do the same thing that other people did. I mean,
Well, all the people that sold where a lot of you people live now, you wouldn't be there if somebody didn't develop that land. It wouldn't be there for you to have bought. And the gentleman that owns that land deserves the same right with his land that all the people around you, to me. And where I sit, it seems like we're in between a rock and a hard spot. There's a group that don't want no warehouses, and then the other group don't want no houses. So what do we want? I mean,
Well, I don't think it's the not wanting the houses. I
Mr.
think
Chair,
that's
it's not a debate.
so, excuse me, I know, yeah, so, I'm sorry, I think that was a rhetorical question. We're not going to open this up for a debate, but,
yeah.
well, I mean, as Mr., Zipper said, there's going to be a lot of people who aren't happy. I mean, either way, somebody's leaving here mad tonight, because there's no easy decision, in a growing county with something like this. So, do you two wish to make a statement?
No.
All right, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. All's in favor of approval? Any opposed? Motion carries by all. This is simply a recommendation to the commissioners. So, I'm gonna call a short recess. We want about 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we're gonna open this meeting back up. Just as a reminder, sir, just as a reminder, Mr. Thompson is recused, from this item as well. And I will address, I mean, he works for an engineering firm that he may not be directly working on any of this stuff, but if his firm works for the property in any way, he feels like he should abstain himself. So, item 6 is a public hearing. I need my glasses. Kevin Forbes is agent for T&T Exley Properties. Thompson Hutton Engineering Company to request to rezone 1,051 acres from PD to PD to allow for the amendment of a planned development located on Highway 21, 2nd District. Ms. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So, again, the applicant is requesting that the PD be amended from PD residential to PD industrial, and that is what we're here for, that PD amendment. A DRI was submitted on May 10th, 2023. This amendment is to replace that multifamily residential with industrial warehouses. A similar application was withdrawn in September of 2023 from the Board of Commissioners. The applicant is proposing a maximum of 630 square feet of highway commercial and 9.5 million square feet of industrial. Staff is recommending alternative number 1.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions, comments at this time? I'm sure. Could I get the applicant up here real quick to explain? I'm sorry. Whoever's presenting for Mr. Forbes.
I'm Murray Marshall. I'll be presenting.
Okay, sir. Go ahead, sir, and then I'll ask my question.
Oh, excuse me. We have some printouts of the changes to what was published that we submitted on the 8th of February that we would like, anybody in the audience would like a copy of it, we want to give it to you. It'll be easier for you to follow.
Mr. Chair. How you doing? Okay.
All right, Mr. Marshall.
Deadline for a reason.
The Exley's PDMU, Exley Track North and South PDMU development text. There are several changes that I just passed out to each one of you, and y'all have a copy of the same thing. I hope we had enough of them for everybody. That have some red lines in it that are changes that we submitted on the 8th. Most of it was clarification. There's some date changes in there that I think the best thing for me to do is just say that the dates should that need to conform to what the exhibits call for. And then I want to point out specifically on page 2 in paragraph 7E, we added language, and I will read that whole paragraph E. Exhibit E shows the 450 feet wide area, which is a conditional buffer in which no land disturbing activity may occur unless the applicable berm A, berm B, berm C, or berm D is also being constructed simultaneously. And then this is the clarification portion. This condition does not apply if construction is only for roads, drainage, utilities, and/or berm construction. Under no circumstances may clearing be performed closer than 150 feet of the Exley northern property line without the simultaneous construction of the applicable berms outlined herein. And then the next change is not in there in red line because it just came up this evening on the issue of the concrete facilities. And we are not, we were already saying we would not build a ready-mix concrete facility on the Exley Tract North, but we were under the understanding that in the ordinance, we could put for our consumption only. In other words, the concrete going into our plant or our property, we could put one in only so long as the construction was underway. So I'm saying we ought to add in there on, what is that? That's paragraph.
Number 16.
I'm on page 5, number 16, that it should read, ready-mix concrete facilities shall not be allowed in Exley Tract North except for on-site use only.
Fair enough.
Temporary, yes. And then the next is, and there's quite a bit on this page, excuse me, on page 8, in paragraph 4, we have added a berm called berm D, which is in there, and then changed some hours to conform with what I think the county's current ordinance is. And I'd like to read number 4. During construction and prior to the applicable section of berm A, berm C, berm B, berm C, or berm D being completed, construction be allowed Monday through Saturday, provided it does not begin earlier than 7 a.m. nor end later than 7 p.m. each day unless a night work permit is granted, giving permission for land clearing, site development, and building construction to occur between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. by the county manager pursuant to Effingham County Code of Ordinances. And then another paragraph 5, which I'm not sure whether we just amended that. Yeah, that was in there to begin with as 5, but we made a lot of change in it. As shown on Exhibit E, and we have deleted down to shown on Exhibit E, berms shall begin construction in tangent with correlating land disturbance activity and be completed prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for their corresponding building. This condition does not apply if construction is only for roads, drainage, utilities, and/or berm construction. And then we skip down to, under no circumstances may clearing be performed closer than 150 feet of the Exley northern property line without the simultaneous construction of the applicable berms outlined herein. And then we added a number 6. When any clearing commences that requires the construction of a berm, applicable berm shall be completed within 12 months of commencement of said clearing.
So when you clear the trees, you got 12 months to build a berm.
When we start clearing, we get a permit in January. We don't put the bulldozer in there till March. We've got 12 months from that date
To complete the berm.
to complete the berm.
They're asking for, yes.
That's what we're asking
That's
for, yes.
That's the
yes.
proposal.
And then on page 10, paragraph 4, there was I don't know how long ago it got dropped, but there was a word commercial that is on the next to the last line of 4, the first paragraph in 4. So a 20-foot buffer between the highway, commercial, and industrial uses within property, within this project, excuse me. And then there's an and in paragraph 4A at the end. I guess that's grammatically correct. I'm not certain. It doesn't confuse, I hope it doesn't confuse anything. Then there's some date changes so the dates conform to the exhibits. And I added some, like the showing the berm design just makes it read easier. The area needed in order to maintain the vegetation installed in 4B. And then we're limiting in 4B, paren 4, providing such limited pervious access, meaning it can be dirt or gravel or pervious concrete or asphalt, but it can't be a hard surface where water runs off. It's got to be where water can percolate through it. Pervious access as may be necessary to construct and maintain the berm, drainage, and fencing. And then on 4C, it said a 30-foot wide buffer, but it really is a 150-foot wide buffer that is applicable there. And then on the next page, which is 4D, we restated, let's see, let me read it. Except for the conditions listed in B4 above, no vertical building or concrete, asphalt, or other impervious paving, gravel and/or pervious paving is allowed, close paren, may be placed within the 150-foot buffer. And then additional conditions, and again, I'm on page 11, which would be 4E. The landscape buffer along Highway 21 between the two entrances to Exley Track North shall be 75 feet wide and planted with 50% more trees and shrubbery than is required by the Effingham County Buffer Ordinance.
Where's that?
This would be, excuse me, I'm on page 11.
Yeah, but where is it on the?
On, between the two entrances on Exley North.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I thought you said.
The rest of the buffer would be 50 feet, which is what the ordinance currently applicable. And then in 4F, there's another clarification. There shall be no buffer along the CXX Railroad property adjacent to the Exley property, because the PUD is Exley Track North and South, and we wanted to be clear that we were not talking about the Exley South portion of it, which is the Gitsy industrial area. Then 4I, it wasn't clear to me, so I added what's in red there. All tree plantings required in the buffers shall be in accordance with the Effingham County Buffer Ordinance. Without that required in the buffers, somebody could say, if you plant a tree on your property, it's got to be done in conformance with what is the buffer ordinance, really. And then in on page 12, we again changed some dates to conform to the exhibits. And then we have a berm D. I'm not going to read the whole paragraph, but down about a little less than half of the way down. With any buildings constructed in the area of building 5, and berm D shall be installed and completed in connection with any buildings constructed in the area of building 6. And then below that, it's a date, and we added berm D. And then on page 15, the table, the change, when we're asking to change from highway commercial a section at our entrance to industrial, and so that changed the acreages, and this is just polishing up recalculating the acreages. I'm not exactly sure what drove all that, but there are a few acres differential on that.
And there is no berm E associated with the new structure, right?
Excuse me,
There is no berm E associated with the new structure on the former commercial property.
No, but there's a 150-foot buffer minimum on there. Yes, that's correct.
Just making sure you're pointing that out.
I'm sorry, I didn't intentionally overlook it as I went through, y'all. You used to have the exhibits that we presented that shows if we are blessed with the most beneficial circumstances, we could build 9.5 million square feet on Exley North and South. The likelihood of getting to there is, like I say, it's going to take a whole lot of good things happening, which I don't envision happening, but we could. The reason we came back with that versus what was presented before was, one of the commissioners raised the question of the exhibit we were using didn't show all the area that we could build on and still comply with the open space requirements and the setback requirements. And his comment was, you mean this is not what might be presented to us for final construction plans? And I said, no, sir. Well, he wanted to see that, and that's, you know, which is fine. It's just a different approach than what we had originally started with. So the exhibit shows as much as could possibly be put on the property.
And Mr. Marshall, just to
Yes.
make sure the wetlands have not been delineated yet, right?
The wetlands have not been, excuse me, we have an old delineation on it. It is
But you do
before
not
the
have
Corps of Engineers right now for an update on the delineation.
Want to make sure they do that.
Yes. Another thing that was going on well, it's been going on for 13 years, I believe. A lawsuit was filed on the definition of wetlands, and the Supreme Court finally ruled on it, called the Sackett ruling. The Sackett ruling gave developers like us a great deal of hope that the Corps of Engineers' ability to designate wetlands that are nowhere near a river as non-jurisdictional. It's not that they're not wetland, it's whether they're jurisdictional wetlands or not. And that was another reason that we pulled the petition off the agenda back in September, was to see what the Corps of Engineers was going to do. Well, the Corps still hasn't come out with a final ruling, but we decided that it was time for us to go ahead back in and come back to you and attempt to get rezoned so we can at least move forward with some of the property. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I think at this time, I'd like to hear from any public. Thank you, Mr. Marshall.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. I know you've waited patiently, so I appreciate that.
I really have. My name's Joshua Stewart, and I really just have one question. He kind of answered most of it. So my main concern, I live right behind berm A on the south end, and I think it's great, the berm they proposed. You know, we've been back and forth, multiple meetings before this. And my main question tonight before he answered was, you know, how long are we gonna have to deal with construction noises, a potential concrete mixing plant, you know, less than 300 feet behind my back door, without a berm? Because a lot of us on that cul-de-sac, we have young kids, we have newborns, and that's real disruptive, you know. And so if I'm understanding it correctly, it sounds like as soon as they clear that section, they have 12 months
For the
complete
berm
it.
be completed.
Okay.
So
And is that,
Not started, completed.
So go ahead, Mr. Stewart.
does that mean they start on day one as soon as they clear? Or is it gonna be, you know, concrete mixing going on 250 feet from our back doors for 6 months, and then they might start it? Is there any way we can tighten up that wording? Because it really affects, you know, these families back there.
We can ask Mr. Marshall. So, I mean, there is some conversation about that. I mean, normally when they clear, they come in and they clear the site.
Yeah.
That's considered the clearing. Would you mind letting him answer it?
Yeah, not at all, not at all.
But also, Mr. Chair, clearing is gonna be dependent on the approved site plan and dependent upon the ordinance, dependent on an EOM review. That's the engineering firm.
Yes, yes.
And then dependent on an LDA permit. So there are still, after commission approval, 4 steps to make sure that things are in order.
Before he can begin clearing. I mean, you got to have an LDA. You got to have a site
Oh, yeah,
plan.
yeah.
So-
I mean,
and I think
which
that's
is one of
Steve's
the
point.
reasons that
And he
not
knows
addressing
that.
what he said, but to expand on that just a little bit. The language says that the 12 months starts from when we commence clearing.
That's right.
Not when we get a permit, because
right.
there's always anyway.
So explain the process, the on-site working. When you go in there and wipe out the trees, then what happens?
Well, wipe out the trees, then earthwork is gonna start, moving. You're gonna either excavate or bring in, depending on what your slab, finished floor elevation is gonna be. And then concrete, you got storm drain, detention ponds are gonna be dug. Entrance road, is gonna be commenced. The question is when is the patch
Berm.
plan gonna be put in?
No, sir, the berm.
The
Mr.
berm.
Mr.
The
Mark,
berm's
the
gonna
berm.
start, we'll start the berm as soon as we get the dirt moving.
So that's my point. You clear, and as you're doing earthwork,
The
you're
berm
building the
starts
berm.
being constructed. The objective, we
So-
hope,
so,
is
but-
there'll be no off-site dirt needed.
But what he wants to know is, will there be a building under construction? Will there be concrete pouring before the berm's completed?
Yes.
Mr.
It'll be
Chair?
done simultaneously.
So, hold on, Mr. Chair. So if you want staff to go out there and direct construction of this property, that's not gonna happen.
No,
Okay?
I'm not asking you to.
And so we don't have the staff to be able to do that. If you want to control the hours of operation or how it's done, then you need to put that into PD text, okay? So if this gentleman and everybody else in the neighborhood says, we want the berms built first before the buildings go in, then that's where you need to start that conversation. We cannot sit here and negotiate construction for staff to go out and negotiate, did he start, did he not start? Because that puts us in
No,
a-
but we can discuss how the process works.
we can, but I'm just saying that if you want to change the process, then it needs to be included in the PD text.
I don't think you can change the process. The process.
It is what it is. But I just saying, don't put us in a situation we got to go out there and hold a clock to see when the sun comes up or something like that, because that's just virtually impossible for us to do.
And I'm just here tonight, like I did not want to sit here for 2 hours and, listen and listen. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting.
Mr. Marshall, would you let Mr. Stewart finish his statement?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
My main concern is, I'm sure y'all can imagine, like I said, there's so many young families back there. So many of us have kids, young children, and 12 months of, a concrete mixing plant, 250 feet behind our back porch, behind our bedrooms, all our bedrooms face there. That's kind of crazy, man. And I can't see how you can sign something into effect without wording that protects us for 12 months. The holidays, every single day, 365 days, we'll have to deal with that. And so I just ask that whatever you need to put in that wording to protect us, that you do. Because none of us really want a warehouse, but, it is what it is. As long as the berm's in place, I can't see how we could really have an issue with it. If we can't see it, we can't hear it, that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
First, right? Am I clear? First.
First,
Okay.
before, we don't want to.
Simultaneously or first?
As soon, if they're digging the pond, the retention pond, and they're using that dirt for the berm, as soon as they dig it, they build the berm.
Okay.
Ideally, first.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
12 months of that's unacceptable, man.
All right. Thank you, sir.
It's so close to these residences.
Anyone else wish to speak?
You want to address it? Let him address it.
Do you wish to speak either in favor or against?
I think you want to say something about it.
Yeah, we'll allow Mr. Marshall
So we
to.
don't have to keep going, saying the same thing.
Do you wish to speak?
Yeah, Troy McCreary. Troy McCreary. I know what he's talking about because my property's right on the line too. I know they want to build warehouses. I'm glad that we got a year to be completed, but the dirt that they can't use to the topsoil anyway, so it can be just pushed right up there. I mean, it might not be totally complete, but keep building, like I say, in a month, at least, 20 feet, or, you ain't got to be perfect till, give them a year, to make it perfect. You can't do everything and plant trees and bushes. But, if you can build it, I don't know, I don't know how it's done here, but like push the dirt up, and as they dig it, in that year, keep 2 months, have it 10 feet or whatever, or 15 feet, 2 more months, or that would, because, and no night times. I mean, I would like to sleep. I mean.
They say from 7 to
7 to 7.
They said from 7 a.m. to
And
7
he said
p.m.
that they would ask for exemptions
There are probably
to work
some,
nighttime.
There will be,
there'll be some
Yeah.
pours that they're gonna ask for a variance
take a
on that,
few-
I'm
they
sure.
take a couple days,
Yep.
couple nights.
Babies don't have a 9 to 5.
But
And the other
if it's
thing
not there,
it
it
is,
drastically reduces.
like everybody else I've heard tonight, is ground saturation. All our water from everybody goes, that's where it's going. You know, I know the engineers have good intentions of doing it right, but I'm riding around Effingham County right now, and I call it Goshen Hills Extension. I don't know what it is, behind choo-choos. I used to be old choo-choos. And when it rains there, every pond overflows into the street, into the sewage. And now they got pumps out there pumping it out the pond, so it won't erode the side of the pond out because it's overflowing so much. Yeah. I've had problems, and that's the highest hill in Effingham County, it's supposed to be. I
And
already
that's
had
behind
problems.
your house, Troy?
Huh?
Behind your house?
Well, my house, land is supposed to be one of the highest hills in the county, but we've been having problems. My neighbor had his, septic tank had to be redone about 4 years ago because saturation. It took him 4 months before he can get a perk test. We had to get a ditch dug out so he could get a perk test. And we live on a sand hill.
So obviously you know the land. The berm's gonna be up on the.
It's gonna be down, yeah. It's going
Stepping
down,
off.
yeah. But that's where, like I say, all the water runs, it's down.
So it's gonna be their problem to contain.
Right, you know, all our water goes to them, but if they build a big berm, don't dig it right, or, so I'm noticing like the new subdivision on Goshen Hills Road, they're building all the lots up. You know, they built these lots up 3 feet higher than what they used to be. That used to be a swamp. That's where, yeah.
They're required to put some pipes under that berm so the water can move. I mean, they can't build a dam.
Right over that. But I mean, but it's just getting right elevation and not building the warehouses too high where all of a sudden it was here, now they're here, and here's my land. It used to be this way, now we're this way. Yeah.
All right, sir.
No, thank
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request?
One more thing.
Yes, sir, Mr. Stewart.
You know,
You got, I'm sorry.
Gotta come to mic, brother.
You've got to speak in your microphone.
He said, you know, there's not gonna be anybody on site enforcing something that's not in the text, but we're gonna be dealing with it every day for a whole year, so please, you know, if there's something you can do to write it in the text, please help us.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
It'll make a huge difference. It might not make a huge difference for them, you know, it might be a minor inconvenience, but for us, to be, you know.
You're behind berm
for
A?
I mean,
He's
that's
A.
the one Huger, it backs right up to where that warehouse is gonna be.
Yeah. All right, sir.
So,
Thank you.
I mean, 250 feet from my back door, my bedroom, it's not a lot to where a concrete mixing plant can be. So a berm would help significantly.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Yes, sir.
Another Mr. Stewart. I'm Joel Stewart again. And I had, looking at this and the additions now of the maximum applicable warehouse space, has there been any studies about how much truck traffic Highway 21 can take? And does that match with the new expanded amount of warehouse and truck spaces that are available?
So they were required to do a DRI, which is a development of regional impact. Would you care to expound on that?
So with that report, that goes out to our surrounding counties. They have 30 days to reply to that report. With that, the city of Savannah did reply. They just asked that Effingham County utilize City of Savannah water through a municipality water supply agreement. That was the only comment that was returned for this development. Nothing, to my knowledge, came back about the traffic for 21. However, a good contact may be GDOT, as it is a state route. So I do not know if there's been truck traffic studies done for that, but it may be, as you're someone who seems interested, may want to contact them.
But today, we're asking for an approval for essentially an expansion, right?
Yes, sir.
So we're going to vote on an approval for what's going to be a fairly substantial expansion of the available amount of space without having any knowledge of the traffic situation? Is that what we're voting on? That we're voting on expanding this without knowing about the traffic?
So anything that they want to access Highway 21, they will have to contact Georgia Department of Transportation, and that approval will be done during their site development. And so they will need that to get their permitting through the county. So, but that is done through site development, not here through their.
We will address the traffic issues after the approval.
Staff and the planning board will, yes.
But it'll be after we approve.
This is a PD text, and then the site development comes next. It's the process. That's what exists now.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Does anyone else wish to speak either in favor or against this request? Mr. Marshall, could I ask you to?
Yes, sir.
Please. Do you have any additional thoughts on the warehouse that is tucked up in that corner, I'll say, wraps up into Goshen Hills, on the speed with which you can construct that berm?
A.
Sir?
Well,
Berm A.
Berm A will be built within 12 months of starting any clearing that is within 150 feet. But we're not going to put the batch plant back there. The batch plant would be as close to 21, but because of the distance to get back to the back, we're not going to put it right up on 21. It'll probably end up, but I don't have an exhibit right there in front of me. It'll probably end up right there, which is, what is that, building 5? Yeah, it's probably going to end up right down on the bottom of building 5.
It's gonna affect them as well. Not just me.
But it's good. The distance in the text that we are asking for, we've got a conditional buffer of 450 feet from the northern property line. That if we don't get it above that 450 feet, or into that 450 feet, then we're asking that we can go forward with any construction we want, but we won't be doing any clearing in there. If we touch anything closer than 450 feet, it triggers the applicable berm construction requirement. And then, except to put in a utility line or a road. But what is the distance that a batch plant needs to be from a house?
Mr. Chair, we don't have anything on that. Can I ask a question as well, please?
Sure.
Are you going to maintain a 56-foot height, or are you going to go higher than that?
Maintain 56-foot height on what?
Of the warehouses. What's the height again?
I think it's 56, yeah. I'm sorry, let me,
That's okay.
Kevin, can you look at that quickly? Isn't it 56? Yeah, yes.
Thank you.
No, we don't.
I'm reiterating that for the public.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Those that are hearing and not hearing.
The 56 feet is in Exley North.
Right.
In Exley South, part of what we own is in Exley South. And
Right.
that has a different, I think it's 75 feet,
It
but
is.
that's
But I just
way
want to let
away
everybody
from.
know it was 56 feet.
Yes,
That's why we did
it
the berm
is.
the way we did. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Mr. Marshall. Is any further questions, Mr. Zipper?
So, Mr. Marshall, the dirt for the berm will be coming out of these retention ponds?
We hope there'll be enough dirt coming out of the detention ponds to build the whole berm. Otherwise, we gotta go buy it from somebody else. So absolutely.
So I guess the question, I had a couple people email me today, and their question was, they were concerned that the warehouse would start before the berm in that area was finished.
Well, yes, the construction will start before the berm is finished. They'll be built simultaneously. but they have to, we can't get a CO for the building until we finish the berm.
But the work that you'd be performing originally would be the site work, the foundation,
You gotta, yes.
and
mhm.
things of that nature, while you're building the berm, and the ready-mix plant won't be close to the neighbors.
No, well, I'm trying to think, what is the distance, 300 feet? Is that far enough? I'm asking for guidance on how far, when we would put a restriction that the ready-mix plant can't be closer than a distance, and I'm saying 300 feet, which in the recently adopted setback ordinance, isn't it 300 feet?
It's 300 feet from the property line.
Yes, 300 feet from a property line.
So is that, if we agree to, the batch plant will not go closer than 300 feet to the property line, isn't that conforming to the industrial
I think it is, especially if
zoning?
there's a berm built.
And the berm would be under construction.
Mr. Chair, so just as an option that I want you to think about, I could see where locating the temporary ready-mix plant in Gitsy South, anywhere in Gitsy South, which helps you with anything that you have to do with the buffer from anywhere in Gitsy North.
That doesn't, we can't live with that, but that's too far back. The Gitsy that we own is all the way back on the railroad track. We don't want to be building.
Oh, you
it back.
don't own?
We don't own right up close
Okay.
to, in Gitsy South, up closer to
Dick Skay on the
21.
suggestion.
So it's got to be on this parcel, north.
And if you
And
say.
you're saying you want it close to 21?
No, what I want to do is put it on the,
Where the
building five, on building five, but no closer than 300 feet to the, northern property line.
Okay, right there, okay.
Gotcha. Alan, you got any more questions?
So how does that affect the berm behind building 5? Because now the ready-mix plant's in the way.
What do you mean in the way? No, the ready-mix plant's gonna be 300 feet or further away from the berm is in the first 150 feet.
Gotcha.
Well, according to this drawing,
But I won't be clearing inside 150 feet. If I clear inside the 150 feet, then I've got to put the berm on that section. But if I don't clear inside the 150 feet, then the berm doesn't get started. But the batch plant will be outside of 300 feet, not just 150, if is what I'm suggesting.
so you have a 150-foot buffer,
Yes.
and then you have a 185-foot parking lot, a 420-foot wide building on building 5, and then the parking lot for the other side is 185 foot.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna put it in the middle of where you're gonna build a building.
No, the batch plant would be moved to one end or the other and positioned down in the parking lot area. It's gonna be as far away so as not to interfere with our construction of a future building.
But it's
We
quite
don't wanna
possible
relocate.
it could be 500 or more
Yeah,
feet from,
yeah.
from where
Yes.
you live.
Yes.
Because you're gonna get the dirt for the berm out of that pond in
Well, it
front
won't
of.
be any disturbed, the woods won't be disturbed at that time.
Yeah, but that's not gonna block noise. I mean, we can already hear it thousands of feet away. So I can only imagine 300, 400, 500 feet with no berm. We're just asking that the berm be put in first before construction takes place.
Well, they're gonna begin building 1, which is at the, south side. And as they work toward building 2, that's gonna be.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, we don't know whether building 5 won't be the first building we build.
I'm sorry.
That's why we have it sectioned like that, is so that the berm, if we build building 2,
You're
we
right.
trigger, we've gotta build berm A.
That's why it's A, B, or C, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
So when you're,
Mr. Chair, you got a question out here in the audience?
To put this in perspective,
Can I get your name?
Tom Exley,
Thank you.
you're not gonna build a building, spend millions if you don't have the occupation slip. Cannot get the occupation slip unless the berm is built. So simultaneously, before you go vertical, that berm is going to be building the dirt as much as we can. That building is not going to be completed. Oh, we got another 6 months, so just wait on that till we get the berm finished. The building costs way more than that berm is. So to clarify, as soon as the dirt and everything, it is going to be built. But my God, weather can come in. Oh, you only had 6 months and hurricane came in and it ain't dried out. You didn't get it built into. That's why we're asking for 12 months. It's not meaning, oh, we're gonna wait till the day before. But it's gonna be built as we're clearing. And we do not, nobody's gonna build a vertical building without that occupation slip. Can't get the occupation slip until the berm is complete. Am I making this clear? It is.
You're correct.
We can't give, nobody knows the weather but Almighty. And that's why we're asking for 12 months. It's not like we just want to sit there and go, okay, we got all the time in the world. No. I've logged enough. When you buy timber, you put in, there's no we can't put a wetland clause. We're saying this is what we're going to be able to do.
All right. Thank
Please
you.
understand. Thank you very much.
So since they're real confident, that's what's gonna happen, is there any way you could write in the text to make us feel better about, as soon as the vertical building, whatever, I can't see it right now. As soon as the vertical construction starts, the berm must be in place, finished? Because it sounds like that's what they already intend to do.
Yeah,
just to protect us.
The berm's gonna have to be in place for the building to be finished.
Or to be constructed, not to be finished. Because that, it doesn't get built overnight.
Policing all this, I mean, in theory, but policing, what triggers, I mean, it's difficult. Look, I get your point. I mean, I do. I understand. I don't know.
There's nothing you can put in the text.
We're working on it. I maybe. See if Mr. Marshall's got one final thought.
No, go ahead.
Well,
Final thought.
the current ordinance allows a concrete plant in a heavy industrial 300 feet with no berm.
That's correct.
All right. What I'm suggesting is that we would do 300 feet and we got 150 that we haven't touched. Whatever its natural condition is right now stays in place. If we touch that 150 feet, then the berm in that section has got to be built. I'm not asking you to give us something that isn't already, in terms of 300 feet, in the ordinance right now, with us never building a berm, or whoever. But we are asking for it to require a berm when any clearing starts inside 150 feet in the applicable spot. So I hope that we can change it to put the 350 feet in there. The question was brought up about drainage and the berm. The warehouses themselves, as Mr. Zipper pointed out, you've got a parking lot for the warehouse itself that's on the residential side of the building. We start out with the berm being 35 feet off the property line, and that's an undisturbed buffer. Then we build the berm, and we have to design it so that we don't back water up above or off of our property onto somebody else's property. And then the topography of the existing site is naturally flowing away from the residential properties. So our slabs, from a cost-effective standpoint, we don't want to, you wouldn't build them up artificially. It isn't like in a residential subdivision, which I've developed many of, where each house is built up on a pad and then it slopes away to the property line, a swale between the two houses. The question about the traffic We are currently approved for 1,350 houses on this particular property. That generates more traffic on Highway 21 than the amount of warehouse space that we're asking to be allowed to build on it. So it's going in the reverse. If we're approved, it's less of an impact on 21. And I think that's,
We agree.
if there are other questions, and I'll be glad to
Further questions?
try to answer them.
Mr. Murray, I think what Mr. McCrary was saying is the water off of their property flows on your property.
Yes,
And I think they were worried about the berm blocking the
Yes.
water and not allowing it to drain off of their property. Am I correct?
Yeah, and also they're building up property, you know.
but we can't build up in that first 35 feet. That's an undisturbed section. Any buildup, which will be the berm, would be in the next 115 feet.
But y'all would supply drainage to
We-
take that water away. You would
Yes,
have
we
to.
cannot,
Can't build a dam.
we can't build the berm and create a dam.
Right.
That's why we did the
won't
15
get-
feet. That's
Excuse
why
me?
we did the maintenance area, so they could put the
Yes.
stormwater
Correct.
utilities in there to be able to handle what comes off the berm and what comes off everybody else's property.
And that is an impervious, it is a pervious, not an impervious
Yes.
surface that we could put in there.
We would not let you do impervious there.
All right.
Any other questions?
No,
Be
sir.
glad to.
I'm gonna close public comment at this time. Discussion from the board. Anything to say?
I think we beat it to death.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I agree, the berm needs to go in as soon as possible, which, I mean, I know it's not gonna be popular, but, you know, in the process of construction, you know, I mean, I think that, you know, over the course of 12 months is, you know, getting it completed, because it's gonna be coming up as it goes. I mean, it's a work in progress. And a
Mr.
lot-
Chair,
a
I
lot
just
steps.
ask that you guys, whatever you do, please put in the temporary time limit of the batch plant, please, so that we have it in the PD text, because it's not in there now.
Temporary limit.
Yeah, if you say 12 months, something that we have start,
Well, the batch
yeah.
plant's gonna have to be there for the duration of the project.
then please put that in there.
Okay,
I'm saying because we just changed that tonight, it's not in there.
okay.
So it's not addressed. We just want to start and a finish, that's all. And if it's finished when they're finished, then that's a finished time,
All right.
I think.
Y'all, okay? All right, I'll call for a motion.
Okay, I'm gonna take a shot at this. I'll make a motion to approve the plan with the temporary batch plant being constructed for the duration of the project. It won't be a permanent batch plant. And that the berm will be simultaneously constructed with the warehouse as soon as the clearing begins.
You have a motion for approval. Everyone understand?
Yeah.
Call for a second.
The 150.
Wait a minute, sorry, go ahead.
Excuse me. The clearing begins in the 150-foot buffer area.
Right.
Okay. Just to be clear of that.
We like that.
Questions? No. Call for a second.
I'll second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank y'all.
Gee, it's getting late.
Y'all want these back? You want these back? Might as well.
For the commission.
Mr. Mr.
So is this gonna be the first section over here?
We'll just keep one. We got to enter it in the record.
Excuse me. Item 7 is a public hearing for William Schaffner, request to rezone to, thank you, John.
Mr. Chair, could you?
Joe, I'd like to keep this one because my commissioner is going to question the hell out of me.
I thought he went home, but he stayed.
No.
Hey, can I
wouldn't
get
have
a
blamed you.
motion to reinstate Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, make a motion to reinstate Ryan Thompson.
Is there a second? Second. Second, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item 7 is a public hearing for William Schaffner, request to rezone 2 of 8.16 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for subdivision to create new home sites located at 165 Briarwood Court, Second District. Ms. Chelsea.
Yes. Yes, sir. So, the applicant would like to rezone, the
I'm sorry, I can't
two
hear.
1 acre.
Mr. Marshall.
Can y'all take that outside, please?
Sorry. Thank you. Sir.
Excuse me.
Sir.
We're in the middle of a meeting.
Sir. All right. Thank you, Ms. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So the applicant would like to rezone the 2 acres that you see here on the site plan because it does fall under that 5 acre threshold. Again, these 2 acres do need to be rezoned to AR2. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong thing. The 2 acres do need to be rezoned to AR2. Staff recommends alternative number 1.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions, comments at this time? Yes, sir. Good evening.
I'm William Schaffner.
All right. So you got anything? You have anything to add to what Ms. Chelsea said?
No, I mean, I just need to break off a couple of pieces of land for in case a kid wants to build there and take care of me in my old age. So that's the whole motivation.
All right.
So how many homes would you be building?
2. Right. We only have plans for 1 at the moment. In the piece that is adjacent to Briarwood Road, it has space for a culvert there. So we have plans to go ahead and put a house there for one of my daughters. And then I just thought while I was at it, I've got enough to subdivide another piece. Would have 11 kids, 31 grandkids, so I figure sooner or later somebody's gonna want a piece.
You have 11 kids?
31 grandkids.
Wow.
So far.
You don't even look like.
Sounds like he needs R5.
I'd hate to be your checkbook at Christmas time.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Anyone else wish to speak either in favor or against this request?
He didn't bring Scotty or Spock with him. This is William Schaffner.
I'll call for a motion.
Make
I
a
make
motion
a
to
motion.
approve.
All right, I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll
Mr.
second.
Zipper, Mrs.
Yes.
Zipper seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by.
Thank you for your patience too, sir.
Yes, thank
No,
you
it was a
for.
blast, really.
Yeah, okay.
Got a lot of patience with 11 kids.
I know. That's right.
That's true.
It's old news for him, ain't it?
All right, Miss Penny West, request to rezone 5 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for new home sites located at 3768 Old Dixie Highway South. This is the 3rd district, Miss Chelsea.
Yes, sir. The applicant is proposing to subdivide the property. The parcel will no longer be a conforming AR1 parcel. It is currently served by private well and septic. The applicant will also extend the 60-foot private access easement to the lots that do not have road frontage. Staff is recommending alternative number 1.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Any questions, comments? Anyone else wish to speak?
Is Miss West here?
She's right there.
She is.
She just is ready to go home.
She is.
I'm hungry.
You're not gonna eat at 9 o'clock at
I'll
night.
call for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve with staff
Is
recommendation.
there a second?
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you for your patience.
You know, we should take these kind of cases first.
Item 9 is the public hearing for Samuel Bradford, request to rezone 5 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for new home sites located at 800 Savannah Town Road. Ms. Chelsea.
Yes, sir. So, like the previous item, the applicant is requesting to subdivide the parcel to create new home sites. Unlike the previous parcel, the applicant is aware that according to the NWI, the National Wetlands Inventory, there are significant wetlands on this parcel. The applicant is also aware that a wetlands delineation will be needed for any building construction. The future land use map does have this parcel projected as agriculture. Staff is recommending alternative number 1.
So we're creating 4 additional lots?
So it would be 4 additional lots. And this is to create home sites for his children.
And they all have 100-foot road frontage on Savannah Town Road?
I will let the applicant speak to that.
They do.
Could you, Mr. Bradford, could you come forward real quick?
I'm hungry too.
Good evening. Can I get your name?
Samuel Bradford.
Thank you, sir. And I just, my only question, or point is, up that way, up and north of Springfield, Guyton, we've had some questions and comments about 1 acre lots, but family members has always kind of trumped that rule, so is it for family?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I need to know.
All right.
Any additional discussion or
Got 4
questions?
kids?
No, I got a little mama too. 10 boys, 1 girl.
I was going to say, you better step up your game, brother. I got you.
Yeah.
That's why you're hungry, right?
Yeah.
Standard is 1 acre lot for AR1 or AR2.
Yeah. But we had one last month that didn't fit the map, and we denied it.
Oh, yeah, I understand that for sure. People are
I mean,
against it.
for me, family matters.
Right.
Any further discussion?
I'm wondering which kids aren't getting land.
Yeah, that's what I got the first five ones thought about it.
They gonna have-
A couple of them come on live up north, so they're not coming back. So, you know what I mean?
Bunch of bedrooms.
Just the median one.
All right, I call for a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval with staff recommendations.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
No.
Second, Mr. Zipper. All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Good luck, Mr. Bradford.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank y'all
Have
for
a good
y'all's
night.
patience. J. Malpin is postponed. Steve wants to talk about signs. Does he really?
Yeah, I mean, we just got to get rid of 62 and all that. Remember what we said in the workshop, right?
All right.
So what did we make a motion for in the workshop?
To get rid of chapter 62.
And then make
we just
sure
have to
there
do it
was,
as part of the
everything
official
was the
meeting?
same in 3.386.
So do we have to repeat what we said, or is that recorded somewhere?
Does anyone else wish to speak?
You do for her, and it's a public hearing,
Can I make
yeah.
a suggestion? No. All these people with these AR1 to AR2s, they should have been on the top of the agenda when you had all of these other long drawn
Goes by
out.
district.
They're doing it by district?
Then don't let them be long and drawn out. Make a motion right off the bat.
We don't have any control of it. It's going on 9 o'clock. These people have been sitting here almost 2 hours and 45 minutes.
And 17 people talked about traffic and everything else.
All right, does anybody else wish to speak?
Why don't you revamp that?
Okay.
We will look into that,
Signs.
Mr. Vice
Signs.
Chair.
I need
I'll make a
somebody
motion.
give me a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept staff's recommendation to delete chapter 68,
Two.
62,
Two.
with the condition that we do check it to make sure there's not any other controls that need to be added to whatever the other chapter is.
3.38.6.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Brad seconds. Mr. Smith, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Good job. Item 12, public hearing for the amendment.
That's
Postpone.
Well, we have to officially
You have
Do
to
it.
officially, and you have to put a date beside it.
consideration amendment to the Code of Ordinance Part 2 for sketch plan. Need a motion to postpone.
I make a motion that
Wait a
we
minute, hold on,
postpone it.
Postpone it to the next meeting?
March 12th?
Next workshop or next meeting? Next workshop.
Next meeting.
workshop. Next meeting?
When? Yeah, that would be tabling till
Yeah.
March 12th.
To the March meeting?
Yes.
So, in our workshop, what do? We tabled it until the next workshop?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but you changed your mind right now.
No, it's gonna come back to the workshop, right?
You wanted to make sure that the changes were available as noted in the meeting. So we can bring it to the workshop, then you can move it to the meeting.
Yeah, because there's not gonna be an opportunity to read it. And
No,
by the time
no,
we get-
no.
Just take it to workshop, look it over, make sure
Yes.
the changes are
Then
there,
move
and then
on
take it to
through.
the meeting.
Okay,
So we'll advertise for it at both.
okay. So we're gonna table it now.
Correct. Till March.
Somebody give me a motion to table.
I make a motion to table.
Is there a second?
No, second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item 13, public hearing, consideration of an amendment to the code, ordinance part 2, business license.
Make a motion to table.
Yeah, we were gonna table that because we were gonna get
Some
advice
legal
from the
advice?
attorney.
Yeah.
Take him longer than a month.
No doubt.
That's for you, Lee. All right, give me a
Table it
motion
to
to table.
25.
So do it at the April meeting.
I make a motion to table to the April meeting.
Okay.
Workshop, excuse me.
Workshop.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, sir.
You're welcome.
Second, anybody?
Second.
Second, Mr. Smith, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. What else?
I got, before you close this out, just because I know some people watch this, so I'd encourage anybody else that comes to these, when you leave the door, try not to destroy county property like some of the people did when they left that one zoning meeting. We are all taxpayers, and that'll just add to our tax bill that we all have to pay because of somebody's frustration outside. I'm
Tonight?
not happy about it.
Yeah,
No.
we got pictures.
Tonight?
Yeah, just outside the door.
When did, what?
The first person that left after Earl Lane slung it open and cracked the wall.
Really, I
So-
heard the door slam, but I didn't know that.
Well, we had a police officer there. We should have pistol whipped him.
Well,
Meeting adjourned.
okay.
I didn't hear.